on the visiting Johnson and Wales Wildcats, making the short hour or so trip, hour and a half, depending on the traffic, up from Providence, Rhode Island to take on your UMass Boston Beacons. Fresh off a trip, winning 3 out of 4 down in Austin, Texas, against the Tornadoes of Concordia. My name is Mason Stelf. Thank you so much for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon. Always great to have some midweek, late afternoon baseball. Hopefully we can get this game in before we even need to turn the floodlights on. That's the glory of this time of the year, and the days will continue to get longer as we go into the spring and early summertime. UMass Boston comes in with a record of 7-2. Outstanding start to the year so far. Just one dropped game down against Concordia, as well as that last home game before they hit that trip where they were shut down by MIT. Johnson Wales has had a struggle to start the season, coming off of a 3-game set against SUNY Cortland, where they got their first win of the season. We'll give you some stats from both of those series as the game goes on, but UMass Boston, at least on paper, should be favored against their local rivals, and they have a beautiful uniform on today. Their home whites with beacons emblazoned across the front. Johnson Wales will be in the road grays today, trimmed in blue. We take a look at this UMass Boston lineup on this Tuesday afternoon, and it's a pretty familiar lineup at this point. We're getting into the meteor stage of the season, just on the eve of conference play, as they will play Western Connecticut to open things up in conference play over the weekend here at Monin Park. But you see the starting lineup, and you see all the heavy hot bats that have started the season so well for this Beacon squad. Steve Brookwell in center field to lead things off with Drew Metzdorf, Craig Corliss, and Kevin Carrera in the DH hole, batting fourth. Look at that average, .467. Hasn't played every day, but that's why he's in the lineup. That's why he's batting cleanup with those power numbers. Aiden Blake, Gianni Zarilli, bat 5-6 with Tom Cute. Jake Waltman is at first base, bats eighth. Luke Levitt, despite that .444 average, basically right there to turn things over to Steve Brookwell, hitting at a very high .444 clip. All of that supporting the starting pitching today of Cole Porter. Opposite for this Johnson and Wales Wildcat team, Trevor Juan leads things off and plays center field. Xavier Botello is the third baseman, bats second with Miles Kelly and Griffin Snyder in the 3-4 spots. E.J. Leone is out in right field. He bats fifth. Cody Pfeiffer is the DH, bats sixth, and definitely could use a little bit of a pick-me-up with that .091 average. Owen Davis is the catcher, bats seventh with Riley Hassan batting eighth and playing short. Jack McGain is in the 9-hole, playing second and hitting just .042. Starting pitching today for Johnson and Wales, they will start Aiden Vining. We will give you the pitchers' numbers as they take the field. But it is Cole Porter, Aiden Vining, the starting pitchers today as we get things ready to go for opening pitch in just a few minutes. Before we do that, though, we do have some highlights. It's spring season, so everybody's starting to get underway. And we have an opportunity to look back at some UMass Boston lacrosse. Men's lacrosse is underway. They were actually the first team to get off underway, and they took down the University of New England 19-7 in their home opener. We take a look at that one and come back with first pitch from Monin Park.
Yeah, Cash Money Hero. Yeah, cash money, heroes, private jets, polish. Chopper burning smoke. Louis bag stay strapped with a priceless glow. Highlight, flipping and get some more. Paradise, the luxury marble flow. When I hit me full of that cash. More money than I seen in the garbage can. Stunner Island, money in the power. That's how we do it, make it rain, make it shower. Top flow, big time of doing big things. Over city view, ball short a new range. Flip another 100, popping throwing hundreds in a new Bentley.
With the game, funny how things can change. They didn't believe in me, then now they're calling my name. Now look who cashed in. They didn't wanna know me back then, but ever since I done gone platinum, everything turned around and now the sky is falling down, down now. Looking like my mother, made it to the goal line, straight out the huddle. Cash money, gold mine, we just stay loyal. Boy, we getting money like we just found oil. And that's word to my red flag. I live first and leave the bush dead last. I lay it down so hard, I got a bed rash. And I just tell them to loaf it when the bread pass. Staring at you from the top of the game, man. I might drop the world if I change hands. It feel good to be here. Weezy in the building, got this rebuilt Young Money. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I've known it all my life. I made it. I used to dream about the life I'm living now. I know that there's no doubt. I made it.
Highlights from a convincing 19-7 win over the Nor'easters in the home opener for UMass Boston lacrosse. You'll see them next out on the field on Saturday, part of basically a full day of UMass Boston athletics. If you want to just sit down, enjoy your day, and watch baseball, softball, lacrosse, you name it, we've got it on Saturday afternoon. But for today, it's just UMass Boston baseball holding on the center stage for themselves as they take the field, and the public address announcer announces those starting lineups. UMass Boston in those white uniforms with blue numbers on the back. Beautiful jerseys at home under blue sky on a Tuesday afternoon from Monin Park. We pause for the national anthem, then it's time for the first pitch. Three greatest words in sports as we get ready to go from Monin Park on this Tuesday. 3 o'clock first pitch scheduled between your UMass Boston Beacons and the visiting Wildcats of Johnson Wales University. Taking to the hill is Cole Porter. This is his third appearance of the season. This is his first start. First saw him with 2 1/3 innings of relief against Northern Vermont Linden, where he was credited with the win. Went 2 1/3, didn't allow a hit, walked 1, struck out 2. He would then pick up the loss, their lone loss, against Concordia of Texas a few days ago. In that game, he went just 1 inning. A little bit unfortunate. He ended up surrendering 3 runs on 3 hits, walked 1, struck out 1. So you combine those 2 outings and you get his numbers through 2 games. ERA of 8.1, but that's obviously inflated. Early season plus being a reliever through those 2 games, so you have 1 bad outing, and that really inflates the stats. But 1-1 record, 3 1/3 innings pitched, 3 hits, 3 runs, all earned, 3 Ks, 2 walks. Beacon pitching has been renowned for its strikeouts to this point in the season. They are just racking up the Ks, 108 through 9 games. That's a much lower average than we saw before they went on that trip down to Concordia. In the early week and a half of the season, they were averaging upwards of 15, even 20 strikeouts a game. That obviously cannot be sustained, and things coming down to earth just a little bit, but still over the century mark through 9 games. Porter, the right-hander, delivers a fastball for strike 1. First pitch time today is 3:04. It is a beautiful afternoon, but it is cold. It's about high 40s, low 50s today, but with the wind blowing fairly vigorously at times, we've had some pretty steep gusts, everything moving left to right as you view it. 0-2 count on the leadoff man, Trevor Juan, but you can see behind the home plate camera those billowing flags out in right center. Off speed, out of the zone. Trevor Juan, the center fielder, in the leadoff spot for Johnson and Wales. It's been a team that's struggled to hit so far this season, struggled in a lot of ways as they come in 1-8. This one up and away for ball 2. Juan has started all 8 games for the Wildcats, hitting .242. 8 hits in 33 at-bats, 6 runs scored, 2 extra base hits, both of the double variety, and he whips a single into right center. This is going to be a long run, but getting there in time. They're trying to take 2. It's going to be a close play. No, it's not. Cut off. And good hustle from Trevor Juan to get there. Never hesitated around first base. It was tracked down fairly quickly. When you play center field on a regular basis, especially here at Monin Park, you learn how to cut those things off, but not much could be done there differently by Steve Brookwell. Tracked it down, got it to the cutoff man, but Juan gets to second base. He has his 3rd double of the season, and it brings in Xavier Botello with a runner on second base and nobody out in the top of the 1st inning. Love to pounce on Beacon pitching early. That's a nice slider. Doesn't have the power slider, Cole Porter, at least hasn't shown it through these first 2 batters, but it's definitely not the curveball. But it takes plenty off of it, comes in there around 70, 75 miles an hour when he does that, and then speeds him up a little bit. Grounded to third, played on a hop by Woltman, makes a nice pick. Definitely not the plan to throw it in the dirt by Drew Metzdorf, but it does do the job. Runner has to halt, of course. Can't advance with the ground ball to the left side of the infield. So Juan stays on second. 5-3 retired. Xavier Botello for the first out of the ball game. Brings up Miles Kelly, the left-handed bat in the 3-hole. The meat of this order needs to pick up the pace. Just one player, Noah Reeder, who isn't starting today, averaging above 300. He's actually at an even 400 as Reeder. The next closest is hitting .281 as this one is lined into the gap between right and center. This will easily score 1. Trundling into second with a double is Miles Kelly. And just a couple of minutes after the ball game starts, Johnson Wales is on the board with 2 doubles. Miles Kelly gets his RBI. Griffin Snyder will come up to the plate as Juan scores. And Cole Porter, after getting roughed up a little bit in his outing against Concordia, does not start off too well in this one. Left that one hanging over the heart of the plate. And with the wind helping that ball as well into the gap, was an easy stand-up double for Kelly. Snyder grounds this one through the hole. Runner can just advance 1 base. Runners on the corners. As Johnson Wells is going after these pitches early in the count, Porter's putting them over the plate much too much through these first 4 batters. And even the play down to third base was hit well, just right to the third baseman, Metzdorf. But not the start that Cole Porter wanted. Still, just 1 ground ball to the middle infield away from getting out of this with just 1 run of damage, and that's what he has to hope for. As in digs E.J. Leone for Johnson and Wales, hitting .259, 7 hits in 27 at-bats in the early going. He swings at the first pitch, pops this to right. It's going to be a long run for Luke Levitt, and it gets over the fence. We've seen a couple of games this season with the wind really pushing out that way. MIT had a home run a week ago that any other day of the season, except for maybe today and that day, would not make it out of here. But it just drifted and drifted and eventually made its way over the right center field fence for a homer. So if the right-handed batters can go oppo and the left-handed bats can pull the ball, that's going to be helped by the wind. This one ripped down the line, just foul. About 3-4 feet outside the left field line, but that time E.J. Leone jumped right on that pitch, and that's been Cole Porter's struggle point through these first couple of batters. These pitches that he's been throwing over the plate have really not had the movement that they've been looking for. And even if they have caught the heart and allowed for driven baseballs like that one was. Got away with it, though. Puts this one high. Won't call that a wasted pitch on the 0-2, as it does set up the rest of your arsenal. Curious if he tries to go down in the dirt here. The batters have clearly been told to try and jump on these pitches. See if you can throw one down there, have Corliss dig it out. That's exactly what they do. But too far outside to make E.J. Leone chase. Griffin Snyder stands on first. Over at third is Miles Kelly. 1 run already in. Trevor Wan scored. Had a double himself, then scored on the Miles Kelly double. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Porter gets the sign, kicks, deals outside. Corliss tried to frame it, but it did look off the plate. Count runs full to E.J. Leone with 1 run already in and a runner on first. I'm curious, do they try and send Griffin Snyder here and make UMass Boston make a decision? They do. Runner takes off, swung on, driven high, settling under it is Levitt. This should at least get the run in regardless of what happens. It's drifting out there. He makes the play, does Levitt. Runner tags and scores. It's a sac fly for E.J. Leone, and Johnson Wales has an early 2-0 lead in the top of the first. So it does the job, and Luke Levitt had to battle the wind out in right field. You could see he had to keep drifting back, eventually made the play. But no play, no fly ball out to right or right center is going to be an easy play for these fielders. So saying routine fly ball might be a little bit of a stretch. These are all college baseball players. They would expect to make those plays, but to say that they're easy or routine is probably doing that a little bit of a disservice with the wind billowing out toward right. Staying back on it, lofting it toward short, and it's unable to be held in by Zerilli. Ends up caroming off of his own leg. You'd think a faster player, Griffin Snyder, should be moving on contact with 2 outs. I'm actually surprised he's not standing on third base. As soon as that ball is off the bat, he should be running. And should have probably been able, when that caromed off of Zerilli, he should be standing on third base right now, if you ask me. He's still in scoring position. You don't want to make the final out of the inning at third. But still, just potentially supercharge this inning. Runners on first and second. 2 men out in the inning. Owen Davis, the catcher, the 7th man to bat in the inning for the Wildcats, comes up and takes a very nice slider. Slider from a right-handed pitcher will move across the plate left to right as you view it behind. Come inside to the left-handed hitter, move away from the righty, usually away and down. They check the second base umpire. Not sure how any second base umpire is going to make that call, to be perfectly frank, unless he sees the bat come right toward him, by which point home plate umpire should be able to make that judgment call. But still, the right call is made. Check this swing. Did the 7-man Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer is on first with that blooper. So 4 hits, 2 doubles, 2 singles have resulted in a 2-run lead with the aid of a sac fly as well from E.J. Leone. Swung on and missed on the 1-2, and Cole Porter does get out of this first inning. 2 runs, 4 hits. No errors, 2 men left on base for Johnson and Wales. We turn things over to the bottom of the first inning. Beacons coming to bat, down 2. Bottom of the first inning. Beacons going up against the left-hander, Aiden Vining. Gives us another opportunity to take a look at the Beacon starting 9. Took a look at it before the game started, but we bring it up again. Steve Brookwell, Drew Metzdorf, Craig Corliss to lead things off for your Beacons today, with Kevin Carrera, Aiden Blank, Gianni Zerilli, 4, 5, 6. Bottom 3, Thomas Q, Jake Waltman, and Luke Levitt. Aiden Vining is the pitcher today for Johnson and Wales. First year, 6-footer from Woburn. Went to Woburn Memorial High School. He has also had a rough start to the season, has Aiden Vining. Trying to turn things around a little bit. This is his fourth appearance, his third start. He is 0-2 this season so far, ERA of 9.39. Johnson Wales' team ERA on the season is 8.5. So if you feel a little bit disheartened after a troublesome top of the first, Beacons have to be coming into this thinking 2 runs is nothing. We should be able to get plenty of hits off of this Johnson Wales pitching staff. Of course, every game is different, and Aiden Vining would love to turn things around in this early going. Aiden Vining took the loss his last time out. 2 2/3, allowed 6 runs. Only 3 of them were earned, though, but it still got him the loss in a 10-9 setback against SUNY Cortland back on the 19th. First pitch is a fastball. Brookwell tried to buy the call a little bit as he scooted off the plate, but takes strike 1. Steve Brookwell, graduate student, 6'1", out of Hightstown, New Jersey. Started his career with the Wildcats, but not Johnson and Wales Wildcats. The Wildcats of Villanova down at the D1 level in Philly. 2 balls, 1 strike to the leadoff man with Metzdorf on deck, Corliss in the hole. Beacons are down 2-0. Home half of the first inning if you're joining us late. 4 hits, including 2 doubles in the away half of the first, giving Johnson Wales an early 2-0 lead, something they desperately need, coming in with a record of just 1-8. They did battle in all 3 games against SUNY Cortland. You'd say they probably felt like they easily could have taken 2 or even swept that series. They lost a couple of heartbreakers, 7-5 and 10-9. They won their lone game of the series with an 8-run top of the 7th in a doubleheader. They ended up winning that one 10-9, a game that they entered that top of the 7th inning as Brookwell swings through strike 3. First out of the inning for Johnson Wales, but they went into that top of the 7th down 8-2. And they ended up winning that one 10-9 in a 7-inning ball game. Would come up short in the first game of that doubleheader, 7-5. Up and away to Drew Metzdorf, number 2 hitter for Coach Eigerbroth's squad. Metzdorf on the season started all 9 games, now number 10. 10 of 31 as he takes a strike. Fastball just catches the narrowest part of the inside corner of the plate by the home plate umpire. Metzdorf leads the team in runs batted in with 10. Swings through that one in the dirt. But is the lone player for UMass Boston with double-digit runs batted in. Craig Corliss would love to get to that threshold today as he's at 8. He waits on deck. He's been hitting a lot of cleanup in the early part of the season, but moved up one in the lineup. Get Kevin Carrera in there, who's been hitting so well this season. Carrera leading the team in batting average at .467, but he's only started 4 of the 8 games in which he's appeared, so gets the start today. Has earned his spot in the lineup. He DHs, moves Corliss up 1 spot to the 3-hole. Full count to Metzdorf. See if Aiden Vining can get him. He can. Metzdorf could have sworn that one was out of the zone. You can see the exasperated look on his face as he looks back at the home plate umpire. But back-to-back Ks, won the straight variety, won the backwards variety for Vining to start things off, and that's exactly what you want to do. If you're a pitcher who's struggled in the early going of the season, even if you aren't one, your team gives you an early 2-0 lead in the top of the first. Your task is to go out there and send the opposition down quickly in the home half so you can turn it back over to your offense and try and sustain that momentum. Corliss takes a strike, similarly flabbergasted by the call. Looks like the inside part of the plate is going to get called a strike by this home plate umpire. It's always difficult to tell. You never necessarily know coming in. We've seen a couple of umpires this season here at Monin who've really liked that upper outside corner of the plate. Looks like inside to the righty is going to get called a strike today. This one just off the plate on that inside third. But you can see Corliss trying to crowd it, make it really difficult to call it a strike if it's inside. Just low. Looked like a strike from this vantage point. Can't quite read the angle. And so Corliss ahead in the count, 3 balls and a strike. We'll see if he's able to pounce on it. A nice pitch here. Instead, he's taken the whole way. I don't know if he's going to get a better pitch in this at-bat than that one, as it's a strike that's poured right in there. And so the count runs full. Corliss trying to extend this bottom of the first. Vining trying to retire the side on strikes, and he does so. Called strike 3, inside corner again. Corliss can't believe it, but it's been called strike all inning long, and it's no runs, no hits, no errors, 3 Ks for Aiden Vining. We head to the second inning, 2-0 Johnson and Wales.
I think it's a new era at UMass Boston where only good things can happen.
It's great to have a world-class chancellor in a world-class city.
He can bring people together.
He is a world-class academic leader and is one of the pioneers of the field of immigration studies. I felt that this was the grand mission that was kind of the culmination of his research, his leadership. He sees what he can do at UMass is really leaving a mark for generations of students to come.
I am very proud to recommend Marcelo Torres Orozco, the appointed Chancellor of the University of Massachusetts, Boston.
I think that the responsibility of the Chancellor is to tell and retell the story of the fundamental contributions of public research university.
Turn things around in the second after a troublesome first in which he let up 4 hits, 2 singles, 2 doubles. Run-scoring sac fly as well. But still, minimized the damage. Didn't let up too much of a crooked inning. Offense, though, shut down in order, all on strikeouts. Some disputed calls, but at the same time, if the umpire is going to make those calls, hopefully Cole Porter can learn from that and start to attack the inside of the plate on the Johnson Wales righties, outside of the plate on the lefties, and get some strikeouts of his own. If you're going to call it, as long as it's consistent, UMass Boston can use that to their advantage. It's going to be a left-hander. It's going to be one of the bigger bats you'll see. Riley Hassan, the shortstop, comes out there. He's tall for a shortstop, Riley Hassan. 6'3", 210 pounds, out of South Portland, Maine. And he jumps on the first pitch and drives this one to right. Levitt ranges back, makes the catch. About 3 steps in front of the warning track. Off the bat, looked like he got plenty of contact to it, and you just never know. Anything hit out to right field with that wind, you feel like could carry. But just a little bit low on the bat face. Lined out more than fly out. But Riley Hassan sends it out to right field for the opening out of inning number 2. Jack McGain, the 9-hole hitter, takes ball 1. Oh, was a strike. This one out of the zone. It's going to be difficult to tell. Not the most demonstrative strikeout motion, and certainly not the most vocal of home plate umpires to voice the strike versus ball call. That one definitely a strike, though, as it darts in there on the off-speed pitch. If he can locate his fastball, Cole Porter, that's when that off-speed really comes alive and makes things very difficult. That's the pitch. Gets it on the outside corner. Called strike 3. Only used 2 different pitches in that at bat, but effectively works at 3 because you use the off-speed pitch in 2 different ways. One basically handcuffs the hitter as it darts right across the strike zone, and then the second one, you leave it up to the umpire to make the call. He gives it to you there as you target the outside corner. Just brush the upper right. Not too much of a protest from the batter either. As this one flown out to right. Trevor Wan, the leadoff man. Long run by the second baseman. He makes the play. Aiden Blake ranging over, makes the play, and a 1-2-3 inning. Exactly what the doctor ordered for Cole Porter. We're through 1.5. It's 2-0 Wildcats. Cole Porter has to like that top of the second. Retires the Wildcats very quickly in order with a fly out to right, the backwards K, and then the pop foul with Aiden Blake ranging at least 60 to 65 feet to his left before crashing into the foul fence after making the play. Now it's back to the offense, seeing if they can start to put a little bit of a dent in Aiden Vining, who got 3 strikeouts in his bottom of the first inning. 2 of them with the backwards K. Beacons at this point know what's going to get called as a strike, or at least they hope they do, from the home plate umpire and can adapt. Brings in Kevin Carrera. You see that 467 average. He has been on fire in the early going. And yet he's only started 4 of the 8 games in which he's appeared, as this one laced foul makes its way somehow past the first protective netting and over the second. Launched into the Boston High School track. DC High. Plenty of players out over there, students, so got to keep an eye out. But Carrera, 7 for 15 in the early going. 1 double, 4 runs batted in, 2 runs scored. And he swings through a beautiful breaking pitch from the lefty. Took something off of that. Ended up just waving at it, did Carrera. 4, 5, and 6, middle third of the order in there for Coach Agerboat's team. This one grounded routinely to second. Gobbled up and retired by McGain. Brings up Aiden Blake, who made that highlight reel catch to finish off the bottom or the top of the second inning. Beacon still looking for their first base runner in their now 5th batter. They have to expand your strike zone. That's played kind of into Johnson and Wales' game plan. You can see they've been going after the early pitches in the at-bat, and if you're going to have a wide strike zone as an umpire, then you really want to go after the first couple of pitches. Those are usually when you're going to get your best pitches to hit. The 0-1 is swung at and chopped to the right side by Kelly. Grabbed by Waltman, steps on the bag, 3 unassisted, 2 up, 2 down, and that's 6 in a row. Retired by Porter. Griffin Snyder singled. He had the blooper in the first inning. Finished his inning at second base. And comes up with nobody on and 2 men out. This one well out of the zone. Gotta like how Cole Porter has settled in after that disappointing first inning. And is really locating his pitches better. Has found the strike zone with his fastball, which has set up some nice breaking pitches as well. 1 ball, 1 strike. Overthrew that one a little bit. Puts it low to Corliss's glove. You can see every time Griffin Snyder just trying to get some data. Every single pitch, he's looking back at the home plate umpire, asking, where was it? How far off was it? There he does again. Yep. 3-1. He gets the call he wants, the batter, but then looks back and he's just trying to check, trying to get as much information as he can from the home plate umpire. And if they're going to oblige, why not? Ball 4. This one well outside. And first base on balls of the day goes to Griffin Snyder, who's on base for the 2nd time today. E.J. Leone had the sac fly deep to right field, which scored Miles Kelly from 3rd. Has a runner on base. 2 men out in the inning. UMass Boston trails it 2-0. Beacons entering this game 6-2. Their only losses coming in their last home game before their trip down to Texas against MIT, and then took 3 of 4, dropped 1 in a close one to Concordia in Game 3 of that series. Fisted back into the protective netting, 1 ball, 1 strike. To the number 5 hitter. Leone from nearby Peabody. Right-handed bat. Leading off of first is Snyder. Pitch upstairs. Snagged by Corliss. Gave a brief look down to first, but it doesn't look like Snyder is leading too far or looking to steal. 2 balls and 1 strike. The pitch, again, in on the hands, fouled back. And now the scoreboard is filled with 2s. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 men out. Johnson Wales up 2-0 in the top of the 3rd. See if he goes off speed or stays with the fastball. He does go off speed, gets the batter out in front of it, and it's bobbled, and there's going to be no play at first. E5 against Drew Metzdorf, and that extends the inning. Leone will take it, though. And for the second time in 3 innings, Johnson Wales threatening to score. Got 2 in the first. Probably would have liked a couple more as they left runners on first and second in that top of the first inning. And they have the same situation here with 2 men out. And Cody Pfeiffer coming to the plate. Single his first time. Trying to recreate that. Snyder leading off of second, going after the first pitch, but well out in front. That's where Cole Porter's had an advantage. These players have been really sitting fastball in the early part of the count. That's why they've been going after the early pitches. They've been sitting fastball, getting fastball, and then trying to drive it. And as Cole Porter has settled in a little bit more, he's been able to go to that off speed. That's a beautiful pitch. And they're going to say it hit him. I don't know how. And I think there's going to be a conversation going down between Coach Agerbrodt and the home plate umpire for obvious reasons. Look at the extended arm from Coach Agerbrodt. He's already making the signal. And frankly, that's what I saw. It rarely gets called. But of all the times I've seen it, that's been what's happened. You see the player at the plate extend that arm, just get in the play. But that was, I almost thought that was in the strike zone. And it doesn't matter. If the ball is in the strike zone, it can't be a hit by pitch. You can crowd the plate all you want. If it's in the strike zone, it's a strike. We take a look at the replay again, and we see that arm definitely gets extended. Tough to see from that angle. Actually looks the opposite from that replay angle, but it definitely in real time looked outside. And now the 2 umpires are going to come together. Now, I have no idea how they could ever reverse this call. They don't have any replay that we do, and they are going to summon him back. Oh, my goodness. I am shocked that they were able to bring that back. And now you're going to have the reverse conversation with the third base coach for Johnson and Wales. Not sure if it's John Casey or Colby Greenall who's coming in there and having a conversation with the home plate umpire, but they're going to call the batter back. So Cody Pfeiffer, they're going to have to figure out exactly what the count is as well. Usually in that situation, it's called a ball. But I thought it was actually in the strike zone. So let's see what sign the umpire puts up. You see Craig Corliss give a little pat to the back to the umpire saying, appreciate that. Appreciate you getting it right. At least what is right for UMass Boston. It is a 1-1 count. So trying to straighten things out, but I think that's the right call. I'm just stunned at how we got to it. Very rare when you don't have instant replay at your disposal to communicate with the second base umpire and make that call and reverse it. But Looks like the second base umpire had that conversation, says, yes, I saw the arm extend. Definitely did not try and get out of the way, quite the opposite, and calls it back. So 2 balls, 1 strike, still remains runners on first and second, and Cole Porter gets second life in this at bat, and he's now 1 strike away from getting out of the inning. Has to light you up as a pitcher. You feel good. You feel like, all right, now this is my at bat. Take it right to him. I'm expecting this one to go off speed away. Yep, that's exactly what happens. Strike 3. Got him swinging. Batter out front, and after thinking he was on base to load things, going down on strikes is Cody Pfeiffer to end the inning. No runs, no hits, 1 error. 2 men left on base for the second time in 3 innings. We're off to the bottom of the frame. It's 2-0, Johnson and Wales.
UMass Boston is a special place that needs and it deserves a special leader.
My mother, she saw the dark clouds that were gathering in Argentina. She became convinced that it was very important for me to seek safety in the United States.
The young man who spoke only Spanish at the time found his way to a community college in California.
And I was blessed because I could transfer to the University of California, Berkeley. I really understood the extraordinary power of the public research university.
I am very proud to recommend Marcelo Flores Orozco be appointed Chancellor of the University of Massachusetts, Boston.
He's a person who's made it here through public education, so he becomes the personification of all that UMass can provide to our students.
Everyone's going to be excited about having him as our next chancellor.
I am grateful, I am humble, I am delighted. Muchas gracias.
Home plate umpire still having a conversation with 4th-year head coach Kevin Casey, assisted by John Casey, Colby Greenong for this Johnson and Wales team. Still trying to figure out exactly what the call was or why the call was reversed on Cody Pfeiffer. Maybe slightly biased, being on the Beacon Broadcast Network, but even as an unbiased baseball fan, I think that was the right call, and I would like to see that call more often. You see players nowadays, they make no intention of getting out of the way of those pitches. In fact, they lean into them trying to buy their way aboard, and oftentimes they get the credit for it. The reverse argument, of course, is throw the ball over the plate, but that's exactly what Cole Porter did. And the batter just stuck his arm out there, got hit, and got caught for it. 1 ball, 1 strike, leading things off for Thomas Q, 7, 8, and 9 in the UMass Boston batting order. Dancing out of the way of the inside pitch. 2 balls and a strike. We met Kevin Casey, Brendan Eigebroe in his 18th season in charge of this UMass Boston program. Has a whole lineup himself of assistant coaches. This one driven to short, gobbled up by Hassan. Easy play over to first. And Thomas Q down to start things off. 7 up, 7 down already for Aiden Vining, who has struggled in his early season. But that's the key. It is early season. And in just his 4th appearance, still plenty of time to set things right. You like what we've seen so far. On the season, had allowed 8 earned runs out of 11 total, 12 hits in 7 2/3 innings, and he is now through 2 1/3, and he is unblemished. Jake Waltman made a nice pick over at first in the first inning. Gets his first at bat of the day, trying to get something moving for UMass Boston against Aiden Vining, who did start opening day for Johnson and Wales. They're still trying to figure out exactly what their pitching rotation is going to be, but still, when you're the guy that starts opening day, that feels good, or at least you come in on opening day. You're usually one of your coach's first options if you play opening day. He only threw 1 inning in that game against Salve Regina. It was a 7-0 loss. for Johnson and Wales, but pitched 1 inning, allowed 1 hit, it was earned, or allowed 1 hit, 1 run, which was earned. Struck out 2, walked 1. And he gets a strikeout of Waltman here. Down swinging, that's the 5th Beacon strikeout in 8 batters. And it's up to Luke Levitt to try and get the Beacons anything in their first go-around through the rotation. Left-handed bat Luke Levitt. Small of stature, but has the speed and definitely patrols right field expertly for this UMass Boston team. Levitt on the season doesn't qualify for the average or the top 5 in average for his team because of just the few at-bats that he's had. But if he did, he'd be second on the entire roster. He's hitting .444, but that's only 4 of 9, as he typically will come in, pinch run, and take over in the outfield late on in games. He is a multi-use tool for Coach Eigerbrodt. Can run, can hit, can field expertly, and gets the start today, just his 2nd of the season. But 4 of 9, 5 runs scored, and yet only has 4 total bases. This one, whipped out into center, getting under it and making a sliding grab. Tough to read it, but Trevor Wan does the job, and the Beacons have gone down 1-2-3 for the first 3 innings. We're off to the 4th inning. Beacons will get their lineup card in the bottom half. They are 0 for 9 to this point. Great start for Vining. Johnson and Wales up 2-0. UMass Boston back out there, and we're going to have a pitching change. We'll tell it to you when it comes back. New pitcher for UMass Boston. They send Keenan Metrick out to the mound from Malvern, Pennsylvania. And as a result, it is only fitting that the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which starts with the iconic line of West Philadelphia, born and raised, that is exactly how one would describe Keenan Metrick, and he takes to the hill in the 4th inning for UMass Boston. Go from the right-hander Cole Porter to the lefty Keenan Metrick on the season. Give you the numbers on him in just a second. This is his 3rd appearance, but this is the first game he hasn't started. So first relief appearance of the year for Keenan. 4 2/3 innings pitched in those 2 starts. 5 runs allowed. 3 of them were earned. 8 hits, 3 walks, 8 Ks. And he will deal with a bottom 3 of this Johnson & Wales lineup of Owen Davis, Riley Hassan, and Jack McGain. Cole Porter goes 3 in his first start. So flipping things around a little bit as you went with a guy that hadn't started his first 2 appearances in Cole Porter, gets the start. Now you go to a guy that started his first 2 games and now is getting his first relief look. It's the beauty of non-conference play for Coach Eigerbrodt, figuring exactly how to line up his pitching staff. And 2 quick pitches, 2 quick strikes for Keenan Metrick. Owen Davis struck out swinging his first time. Lefty-lefty matchup typically favors the pitcher. Just out of the zone. But you see you like the location from Craig Corliss I'll say it throughout the season long. I hate the term wasted pitch. Technically, you can say that is that on an 0-2 count like that, but that is the exact opposite of a wasted pitch because it sets that up just outside, but now the batter has no idea what's coming. You can go breaking pitch low. You can try and tempt him high. You can go outside again, or you can try and bait him inside and jam him. But you have the entire plate at your disposal on this 2-2 pitch. He goes off speed, catches the outside corner, strike 3. That is beautiful pitch sequencing. And gets the first out of the top of the 4th inning. After that disappointing first, Beacon pitching has settled down. Cole Porter went 1-2-3 in the second. Had runners on first and second in the third, but one of those was a walk and one was an error, so should have gotten out of that one batter sooner as well. A nice start by Metric. Darts the slider out of the zone. So now you get a slider from a left-handed pitcher that's going to go away from the lefties and in on the righties. Fastball just catches the bottom half of the strike zone. A little bit low. I don't think Riley Hassan loved the call. He flew out to right his first time. This one well outside, though. 2 balls, 1 strike, 1 man out. Top of the 4th inning, Johnson Wales 2, your UMass Boston Beacons nothing. Still looking for their first base runner are the Beacons against Aiden Vining, who has, by a country mile, had his best start of the season. This one does not catch the strike zone. 3 balls, 1 strike as put up by the home plate umpire. Johnson Wales leading 2 runs on 4 hits, no errors. The Beacons, no runs, no hits, 1 error. Catches the outside lower part. Not exactly sure what Riley Hassan's supposed to do with that other than potentially spoil it on this count. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Count is full. The payoff in the dirt. Nice pick by Corliss, but nothing doing. As striding down to first with the second walk of the Johnson and Wales day is Riley Hassan.
The second baseman, number 13,
Jack McGain, the 9-hole hitter, trying to pass the baton to the top of the order. That was so potent in the first. McGain struck out looking in the bottom of the second, or top of the second, excuse me. Riley Hassan taking a very slim lead over at first. Probably the first pitch I've seen today that I actually thought that the way he's called it, the home plate umpire, that was bound to be a strike, but says it was outside or high. I'm not sure which. Swing on it and just knuckling it. This one might fall in fair territory. It does not. Beacons can thank Mother Nature and the wind for that one. As that one, that's off to left field, definitely falls, but with the wind blowing out that way for the majority of the day, just getting foul by maybe a yard, yard and a half. But very clearly foul. Evens the count at a ball and a strike. Off speed, nice job to stay back on it, but it should still be handled, and it is. Out there in left field by Q. Retreating back to first is Riley Hassan, and we have 2 out in the away half of inning number 4. Brings us back to the top of the order, and Trevor Wan doubled to lead things off in the first inning, then popped out to the second baseman in foul territory. It was a beautiful play made by Aiden Blake. Comes up with 1 man on 2 men out, trying to swing for the fences on the first pitch. Hasn't been hard to figure out the Johnson and Wales game plan. They're trying to sit on that first pitch, and then they're leaving it to the player to determine if they're going to sit fastball or breaking ball. Clearly, Trevor Wan was sitting breaking ball and just swung right through it, but he wanted that pitch. As soon as he saw it, eyes lit up, and he tries to blast it over the mini monster and left. 1 ball, 1 strike. Hassan is leaning back toward first, but he takes off, goes for a second. Throw is in, not in time. I cannot believe that Hassan had enough time to get down there. He's leaning back toward first base and then tries to use that to catapult himself off to second. Did not take a big lead and was relying solely on his speed, but he steals second. And for the third time in 4 innings, Johnson & Wales has a runner in scoring position and 2 men out. For the second time in as many innings, there haven't been a hit to get a runner in scoring position. They take off. Corliss bobbled it. They throw down to third. He is not in time. And I'm not sure if Corliss wasn't expecting him to go or he just couldn't dig it out of the turf. It's a tough call because he definitely wasn't going. It wasn't necessarily a wild pitch even or a pass ball. It was just trying to pick it out. And there, I think that's probably the right call is they gave him a steal. But it's not going to make a difference as Trevor Wan really wanted the homer. Swings right through the high cheese. And we go to the bottom of the 4th inning. Another inning where Johnson & Wales threatens to score but does not do so. No runs, no hits, no errors, 1 man left on base. To the bottom of the 4th we go. Beacons trail it 2-0.
My mother, she saw the dark clouds that were gathering in Argentina. She became convinced that it was very important for me to seek safety in the United States.
The young man who spoke only Spanish at the time found his way to a community college in California.
And I was blessed because I could transfer to the University of California, Berkeley. I really understood the extraordinary power of the public research university.
I am very proud to recommend Marcelo Suarez Orozco be appointed Chancellor of the University of Massachusetts, Boston.
He's a person who's made it here through public education, so he becomes the personification of all that UMass can provide to our students.
It's great to have a world-class chancellor in a world-class city.
It takes a real leader to go after a giant, and that's what Marty Meehan did here.
Everyone's going to be excited about having him as our next chancellor.
Matt Klarberg is the new pitcher for Johnson & Wales. Aiden Vining has the most desirable stat line you could have through 3 innings. 3 innings, 9 batters faced, retired every single one of them. In terms of Ks, 5. No walks, no hits, no runs, nothing for Aiden Vining, and he gives way to Klarberg, who's quickly up 0-2. On the Beacons leadoff man, Steve Brookwell, who struck out swinging to lead off the home half of the 1st inning. Get you the numbers on Klarberg in just a moment. This is his 3rd appearance of the season. One of the go-to relievers for the Wildcats and Kevin Casey. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Klarberg in 2 1/3 innings pitched in his 2 appearances. No runs allowed, 2 hits. Should say no earned runs allowed. Does have an unearned run that was charged to him. 2 walks, 2 Ks. Swinging and missing in the dirt. Brookwell hustles down there, and they're going to say they got him. They're going to say the first baseman made the catch and then dropped the baseball, but that was almost a very interesting way to get the first base run of the day. But it's another K for Johnson and Wales pitching. I don't know, maybe it was announcer's jinx saying that you would feel that UMass Boston would feel confident going up against Johnson and Wales pitching that to this point of the season as this one is fouled down the third base side. Coming into this game, Johnson and Wales as a team had an ERA of 8.50. 72 innings pitched, 78 runs allowed, 68 earned. So averaging more than 1 run allowed, earned or unearned, per inning. But they have been staunch today and have yet to allow a UMass Boston base runner. Beacon pitching settled down after the first. They've retired Johnson and Wales without too much difficulty the last 3 innings. A couple of base runners, but nothing overly threatening. 0-2 as this one's chopped toward the visiting dugout off to our left. Drew Metzdorf struck out looking, as did the player on deck, Craig Corliss, in what was a strikeout the side, 1-2-3 first inning. This one driven down the left field line, up against the mini monster. It one hops it. Metzdorf motoring into second. He gets in standing up, and the Beacons are on the board. They have their first hit, and now let's see if they can get their first run. You like who they have coming up to get it there, though. Craig Corliss in the 3 spot. Right off the bat, you knew that was going to get up toward the mini monster. Wasn't sure if it was going to one-hop it or play it on the fly. But Drew Metzdorf with the double, and Craig Corliss will step in with an opportunity to drive him in. Mentioned these 2 players, Metzdorf and Corliss, have been the guys driving in the majority of runs for UMass Boston. Corliss with 8, Metzdorf with a team-leading 10. And with one big swing of the bat, Corliss can even that battle up at 10 apiece. You take one, though. There's a huge gap separating center and right field. That's just courtesy of the dimensions of Monin Park. It's very difficult to cover all that green space out there. I would say green grass, but knowing that it's artificial turf, that seems a little bit superfluous. But there is a lot of space between the center fielder and right fielder for Craig Corliss if he can go the other way. 1 ball, 1 strike to the number 3 hitter. Outside, trying to frame it, but unsuccessfully doing so. Owen Davis behind the plate. 2-1, hitters count for Corliss. It's a big pitch early in this game for Matt Klarberg. Got to be careful. You definitely don't want to fall behind 3-1, but you also can't throw a meatball for Corliss. He'll drive it. Another unsuccessful frame, definitely outside the zone. Usually the catcher moves their mitt that much. Umpire is not going to bite. And now it's a great hitter's count for Craig Corliss. He did not have the green light to go in the 3-1 count he had in the first inning. Ended up getting rung up on strikes. Does he have the green light in the 4th? He does. Drives it right to the shortstop. Played on a couple of hops. Easy play across the diamond. Moving up 90 feet is Metzdorf. Corliss got a lot of it. Advances the runner. But with now 2 men out, it's left to Kevin Carrera.
The designated hitter, number 33, Kevin Carrera.
Mentioned Carrera comes into this game with a team-leading average of .467. He grounded to the second baseman in his first at-bat in the second inning. 4 runs batted in, looking for number 5, which is Drew Metzdorf, leading off just 90 feet away. And now there's going to be a conversation that takes place at the pitcher's mound. Not quite sure if that's Kevin Casey, the manager. Doesn't look like it. But for Johnson and Wales, this is a big batter. They have the lead. They've controlled the game for the most part as we near the middle stages. But knowing that one swing of the bat and one poor pitch and the lead is cut in half. So mound visit used up by Johnson and Wales in this key situation in the bottom of the 4th inning. Beacons trail it 2-0. Tying run, though, is at the plate. And the first run of the Beacons ball game leads off of third in the form of Drew Metzdorf, who doubled off of the mini monster in left earlier this inning. Swinging, and it gets away. It's going to be a foul ball, though. And no protest either. So it definitely was a foul ball from Kevin Carrera. Couldn't hear the tip of the bat because of the windy conditions. Don't have the windows open in the press box, so couldn't hear the tick off the bat, but definitely a foul ball, as there was definitely no motion from Kevin Carrera trying to send Metzdorf home as the ball got away. But you can see the wind billowing in the leaves, the few of them that there are, swirling around home plate. 2 balls and a strike on the Beacons cleanup man. Aiden Blake waits in the on-deck circle, hoping he'll get a turn in the bottom of the 4th. Carrera with a hitter's count. Swings, drives this one, trying to make his way back, now trying to settle under it and making the play is the center fielder, Juan. He was getting battled against the wind a little bit, went forward, back, forward again, and makes the play. And the Beacons do get the hit, but they do not break through. No runs, a hit, no errors, 1 man left agonizingly on third. We're off to the 5th inning of play. It's 2-0, Johnson and Wales.
I think it's a new era at UMass Boston where only good things can happen.
It's great to have a world-class chancellor in a world-class city.
He can bring people together.
He is a world-class academic leader and is one of the pioneers of the field of immigration studies. I felt that this was the grand mission that was kind of the culmination of his research, his leadership. He sees what he could do at UMass is really leaving a mark for generations of students to come.
I am very proud to recommend Marcelo Torres Orozco be appointed Chancellor of the University of Massachusetts, Boston.
I think that the responsibility of the Chancellor is to tell and retell the story of the fundamental contributions a public research university make and will continue to make moving forward. In this unique city, the city of education, the city of immigration, our Athens.
I believe that Marcelo is the right person at the right time.
Everyone's going to be excited about having him as our next chancellor.
Second inning out there for Keenan Metrick. This is his 2nd straight game in which he's appeared. He started but only played 1 inning. Played 1 inning, against Concordia in the final game of that 4-game set. Started the game, went an inning, allowed 2 runs, 2 earned runs, 4 runs total. Allowed 3 hits, 1 walk, and a strikeout through 40 pitches just to get through that first inning before he made way to the eventual winner, Jackson Snyder, who threw 4 majestic innings, didn't allow a run, struck out 3, walked 4, in what would end up being a Beacons 12-5 victory. They trailed 4-2 after that first inning, but then would score 9 between the 2nd and 3rd to jump out to what would be an 11-4 lead, and they wouldn't look back from there as they took 3 of 4 from the Tornadoes. 0-2 the count against Xavier Botello. Bounced in on the 1-2, or the 0-2, to make it 1-2. Miles Kelly, Griffin Snyder, 2nd and 3rd, due up for Coach Kelly. In the 5th inning, low-scoring affair. Every single hit for Johnson Wales came in the 1st inning against Cole Porter. 2 singles, 2 doubles, a sac fly. All the damage being done in the away half of the 1st. Since then, Johnson Wales has had a couple of base runners, but no hits, and UMass Boston just broke through for their first hit in the home half of the 4th. This one off the knob of the bat. Fouled away harmlessly. 2 balls, 2 strikes for Botello. UMass Boston doesn't look like anybody going at the moment. Maybe 1 man. Tough to see out in the bullpen with the white uniforms and the gray uniforms exactly who has a man warming up. I believe that's UMass Boston, but can't quite figure it out. It was a great start for Aiden Vining for Johnson and Wales. Perfect through 3 innings. Then Matt Klarberg surrendered that first hit, but got out of trouble, left the man stranded on 3rd. 2-2 again. Inside. Got the players doing the scouting for UMass Boston below us. Can't believe that wasn't called a strike. Count runs full, 3-2. Metric delivers. This one definitely inside. First one left it to the umpire to make the call. Second one, no doubt about it. Third straight inning that Johnson Wales has a walk.
The first baseman, number 28, Miles Kelly.
So Botello on base for the first time today. Miles Kelly, who had the second of the two doubles in the first inning, drove in Trevor Wan for the first run of the day. Steps in, the left-handed batter. Has one of the flashier bats that you'll see with that blue-yellow combination. Matches perfectly the Johnson & Wales colors as well, so rhyme and a reason, you'd think. 1-0. Make it 2-0 is Corliss. Nice stop. But a now favorable hitter's count for Miles Kelly. Came in on the season as really their team's leading hitter. Noah Reeder, we mentioned, is their one guy that is hitting above 300, but is not an everyday player. He's just 2 for 5, so doesn't qualify to be their team's leading hitter. So that mantle falls on Miles Kelly's shoulders. 9 hits in 32 at-bats. Owen Davis hitting 276, E.J. Leone 259. But as a team, Johnson & Wales is hitting 190. Do not want your team average to be that far below the dreaded Mendoza line. 2-1 the count. Leadoff man aboard in the away side of the fifth. Throwing over, a little bit high, but Woltman has no trouble with it, with his height. Wrangles it in, throws it back to the pitcher. Just trying to keep the man close. Wasn't actually going for the pickoff there. The 2-1 to the lefty. And this one plunks off of his helmet, and that one you definitely cannot say he did not try and get out of the way of. That's why you got the helmet. And once again, it's the third time in 4 innings that Johnson & Wales has gotten runners on base and runners in scoring position without hits. Eerily similar to the UMass Boston day against MIT about a week ago when UMass Boston was getting runners on, but not via the hit, using the pitches or lack thereof that they were being given. So Botello down to second. Kelly on first with a hit batsman, first one of the day that we've seen. And Griffin Snyder has 2 men aboard and nobody out. Beacons had to be pleased, the lack of offense, but still right in this game. But Johnson & Wales trying to put up a crooked number in the 5th and make things very interesting. This one driven deep to left. Should have room, but it's dropped in front. Couldn't read it. Throw on to third, not picked by Metzdorf. Might have had a ridiculous 7-5 force out if that one had been picked successfully. I don't think that actually ends up in the book as an error. It doesn't, because it fell down without being touched in front of the left fielder, Thomas Q, who definitely feels like he committed error. So it's an error in your mind rather than one in the scorebook. But it's a bases loaded situation now for E.J. Leone. Big situation for Keenan Metric. Leone on the season, 259. Does have 9 total bases and leads the team by a 4-run margin in runs batted in. So this is the guy that you want up for Johnson & Wales in a situation like this. No balls and a strike. Off speed. Nice little power slider there. Doesn't do much, but enough movement that the batter doesn't want anything to do with it. Pitchers count 0-2. This would be a big strikeout for Metric. It is swung on. Levitt moving to his right. Long run. It falls in. Played on a hop. Because it was up there for so long, just one runner can score. But it is an RBI single. Doesn't matter how you get it, if it works. Botello comes in to score. It's an RBI blooper for E.J. Leon, and it's 3-0 Johnson and Wales. Back-to-back singles. First one, definitely Thomas Q feels like he should have caught. Second one, unfortunate for Levitt, battling the wind the whole way, and it just kept moving away from him. And now we're going to have a pinch hitter. So Cody Pfeiffer's day is done at 1 for 2. And the pinch hitter for Johnson and Wales is going to be number 31, Nicholas Fortes, the 6-foot true freshman out of Cranston, Rhode Island. And with Fortes coming in to pinch hit, that also sends out the Beacons pitching coach to talk things over with Keenan Metrick. It's been an unfortunate inning for him. The walk, then the hit batsman, and there was a pitch during the walk that he definitely wanted strike 3, didn't get. Oh, impossible, of course, to go back to that moment and say, what if? But that's the beauty of being a sportscaster. You can. And so you say, well, what if that had been called a strike? Then you get the leadoff man out and everything sets up the inning from there. Instead, you don't get the call. You throw the next pitch out of the zone. Leadoff walk, then a hit batsman, then a fly ball to left that Thomas Q normally handles. Can't do it. Loads the bases, and then, again, on any other day where the wind isn't blowing in that direction, you'd think Levitt can track that down with his speed, but no, blows away from him, plays it on a hop, and we still have bases loaded. Nobody out, and 1 run in. And I'm not sure how that's not a strike. (1-0) the count to Nicholas Fortes. And this time he does not get the call, as it's called a strike. Fortes, this is his 4th game. As this one knuckled down the third baseline off the glove of Metzdorf. 1 run is in. Second one is in as it bounces off of the runner coming from first to third, E.J. Leon. It's an RBI single, a 2-run RBI single, and Johnson and Wales has gotten their just desserts. They're up 5-0. So Nicholas Fortes gets the job done. Exactly what you want. Makes your coach look brilliant when you pinch hit and deliver. There's still nobody out in the inning. And 3 runs are across, and they are letting Keenan Metrick go. It is his responsibility to navigate his way through this inning and try and keep this at 3. And now, for the first time, it really feels like the calls that we saw in the early part of the game, where those inside and outside corners of the plate were getting called a strike, are not. And now you can see Coach Eigerbrodt is barking at the home plate umpire, saying, how is that not a strike? You can only hear so much, but you can distinctly hear no one knows what you're calling. Coach for UMass Boston putting it a little bit more succinctly than I am. But I would say any fans at home feel the same way. That the consistency that we saw in the early part of the game, where those parts of the strike zone, inside, outside, were going to the pitcher, now are not. And that's what ultimately frustrates a coach. Doesn't matter what sport it is, umpire, referee, When things don't feel consistent, that's when you lose your hot or lose your cool, blow your top, whatever you want to say colloquially. But Coach Egerbro looking for a strike, gets it there, but definitely frustrated with the way that this game has turned in the top of the fifth. The 2-1 swung on, fouled straight back. And still barking at the home plate umpire. You do feel at some point that now it's a little bit of gamesmanship, a little bit of a show. He is asking and begging the umpire to make the decision on whether or not to keep him in this ball game. Keenan Metrick. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Nobody out. First and third. 3 runs in already for Johnson Wales. Nice stop by Corliss behind the plate. This is a key pitch. You get the feeling if the bases get loaded again and Keenan Metrick's shoulders slump a little bit more, that this really could get ugly. 5-0 is not insurmountable. As he throws over to first. What you don't want is this suddenly becoming 7, 8, 9. Full count pitch. Runner stays on first. Swung on and missed. Strike 3. Critical strikeout of Owen Davis. First out in the top of the fifth. This all started with a walk of Xavier Botello. And the 2-2 pitch of that at bat, UMass Boston wanted strike 3. They didn't get it. Next pitch was well out of the zone. Then a hit batsman of Miles Kelly, Griffin Snyder. Single to left on a play that Thomas Q definitely wants back. Couldn't read it in the wind. It dropped in front of him. Then E.J. Leone bloops one to right. It escapes Luke Levitt thanks to the wind again to get one runner across. Then a 2-run pinch hit single by Nicholas Fortes down the third baseline off the glove of Metzdorf, leading into the Owen Davis strikeout. But that's how we got here. 3 runs on 2 hits, a walk, and a hit batter. Brings up the 8-man Riley Hassan. 0 for 1. Flew out to right, walked, and actually stole 2 bases before getting stranded at third just last inning. The 2-1 from Metrick. Strike 2. Corliss points at the mound. There is a little bit of renewed focus. Might be out of frustration, but doesn't matter how the focus comes. But Metrick clearly is trying to get out of this, and you would breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief if you could hold it right here. Grounded to short. This is going to be very difficult to turn to. There's one. Oh, no. Dropped by the second baseman, Aiden Blake. Ends up as an E4. It does still go down as a run batted in because I don't think there was any way that they were going to turn 2. So it's going to be an RBI ground out for Riley Hassan. He reaches on the error. Nicholas Fortes should be out at second, but he's not. Bacon's second error of the day. Had one over at third by Metzdorf, and now an error at second by Aiden Blake, who really made the best defensive play of the day as he careened into the right field foul fence to make a stop earlier in the ball game, but drops that one, and an inning goes from bad to worse. That run was going to score regardless, so do not think that there was a chance that they were going to get a hustling Riley Hassan on that play as it was hit deep into the hole at short. This one, chopped to third. Metzdorf fields, fires a second. Blake onto first, double play. And they get out of it. 4 runs scored in that half inning by Johnson and Wales. 4 runs on 3 hits, one error, and one man left on base. We are halfway through this ball game. To the bottom of the fifth we go. Johnson and Wales 6, your UMass Boston Beacons nothing. Aiden Blake up for UMass Boston. 6-0 the score in favor of Johnson and Wales. Team that definitely is not looking the part of a 1-8 team. Beacons still have time to mount a comeback, but you'd certainly like to start that comeback now. You don't want to get to the 7th, 8th inning down 6. Not necessarily looking to get all 6 back at once. You'd take it, of course, if it came, but if you could get 1-2 back in the bottom of the 5th, you'd feel like this is a game that's still within reach as you get set for conference play coming up this weekend. Western Connecticut will be your first conference opponents as this one out of the zone. After this one, you have one last non-conference game. That'll be a true road game down at Salve Regina in Newport on Thursday. First pitch time scheduled for 3 o'clock. And then the first Little East Conference games of the season, a doubleheader this coming Saturday, starting at noon against Western Connecticut. We'll have that one for you, of course, right here on the Beacon Broadcast Network. Be on the air right around 12:45. After that, we'll be back again for more non-conference baseball against Brandeis. The judges will be here next Tuesday. Another 3 o'clock start. And then the first extended road trip of the season outside of the Concordia trip at Roger Williams, at Western New England, and at Castleton. This one squeaks by the pitcher, not in time. Beating out the infield single nicely is Aiden Blake. Got to start the rally somehow. Infield hit. Brings up Gianni Zarilli Jr. 8 men came to bat for Johnson and Wales in the away half of the 5th. Only player that didn't was Trevor Wan.
The shortstop, number 3, Gianni Zarilli Jr.
Zarilli Jr. hasn't had an opportunity to bat since the 2nd inning. The Beacons have been largely shut down by Johnson and Wales pitching. Vining was perfect in Klarberg. That's only the 2nd hit that he's allowed. This one outside. Zarilli started the season extremely well. He's cooled off a little bit since. He's still hitting above the 300 threshold. 10 for 33. Only Beacon this season with multiple homers with 2. Would love one of those here, though you don't need it. Take a single or a power drive into the gap in right center. Just to start the ball rolling toward a potential comeback. 6-0 is not completely out of reach. Johnson and Wales has been hit hard for the most part this season, so Though they've looked good today, that can change very quickly. It's the beauty of baseball. You can be rolling and just one thing, one hit, completely changes the trajectory of a ball game. Leadoff man aboard is Blake with his infield hit. Zerilli Jr. in a 1-2 hole at the moment with Thomas Q, who would love to redeem himself. Can't blame him too much, but he definitely would love that play back out and left where looked like he had a beat on it, and it just fell in front of him. Swung on, hit to third, dropped at first. Is there a play at first? There is. They get him in time. Excellent job to stay with it over at third. Xavier Botello drops it, loses the double play, but recollects himself and fires it across the diamond, and it did look by a quarter of a step like Gianni Zerilli Jr. was out. Frustrated first base coach, but didn't look like he was protesting the call as much as frustrated that nothing is going the Beacons' way at the moment. Blake does advance up to second base on the fielder's choice, therefore. Runner in scoring position. This one laced to right, but laced too well as E.J. Leon hauls it in. Off the bat looked good from Thomas Q, but a harmless L9 in the scorebook for Q. Jake Waltman with his second at-bat struck out swinging in the home half of the third. This has been the area that Johnson & Wales has struggled in all season long when they've had runners on base behind their pitching staff. They have been unable to prevent big innings from taking place. But they've been much better today. Far too many multi-run innings that they allowed against SUNY Cortland in their last 3-game set, where they dropped 2 of 3. The pitch in the strike zone. Waltman at that very tall frame, not necessarily going to get a lot of those calls. Up in the strike zone for him, it's usually going to get called a strike. It's a little bit unfair, but that's the long and short of it when you're 6'3". This time he's able to get a ball. 2 balls and a strike. But in that SUNY Cortland series, SUNY Cortland had at least one big inning in each of the 3 games. They had a 4-run 6th. They had a 4-run 2nd. And they had a 5-run 2nd, of course, across the 3-game series. That's been what they've changed today. Not only have they not allowed a run, but certainly nothing has looked like it was going to turn into something big for UMass Boston. This feels like as close as they've come to a run. Yes, they had a runner on third, but just the single runner in scoring position feels like a threat right now for UMass Boston as much as they can generate. Waltman drives this one to left. They're going to hold up Blake at third. Initially, the sign to go was given, but definitely the right call was made to hold up Blake. Would have been out by at least half a base path. But Waltman does his job, continues the inning. Gets the third hit of this Beacon afternoon. Brings up Luke Levitt. Levitt has speed, so if you can get this one into a dangerous area, then it might turn into a track meet. Was curious if you were going to see Waltman lifted for a pinch runner, but they're not. In a 6-0 game, they value Waltman's defense more so than potentially just the second run that he would pose. So he stays in there running at first. Luke Levitt flew out to center in his only at-bat of the day. This one in the dirt. Runner takes off. He's coming home. He is safe. Wild pitch. Blake reacting instantly. And the Beacons are on the board. It's 6-1. Waltman did not take off. That did not get more than 2 steps away from the catcher Davis. But excellently done by Blake. Read it perfectly, took off, no hesitation. And maybe that's what the Beacons need to potentially jumpstart this ball game for them offensively. 3-0 the count. Klarberg does not want to walk Levitt and turn over the lineup card. There is nothing really more costly than walking the 9-hole hitter, especially if he did it on 4 pitches. You walk the 9-hole hitter on 4 pitches to turn off the lineup card, and that's exactly what he does. He walks Levitt, brings up Brookwell with runners on first and second, 2 men out, 1 run in. And this is definitely a chance where you definitely want to have the mound visit. No surprises whatsoever to do the mound visit here. You're not careful with your pitch selection. This could be a 6-4 ball game in an instant. Brookwell's 0 for 2 today. He struck out swinging both times, which brings his batting average. I'm not sure if he's now under 300. He came in at 308. He's definitely, if he is still at the 300 level, he is teetering precariously to dropping under that. 8 for now, 28 on the season for Steve. But does have a knack for the extra base hit. Of his 8 hits, he has 3 doubles and 2 triples. And with speed on the base paths, if he gets one in the gap, there is no doubt that Levitt's going to be able to potentially score from first. Waltman will be able to jog home from second. So they're playing fairly shallow in the outfield. Everybody else is at standard depth. Don't really have to worry too much about Waltman trying to go for third. That's not going to happen. But Levitt with a large lead over at first with nobody holding him on. Brookwell swings at the first pitch and swings and fouls it off. Still making the executive decision, Coach Eigerbrodt, to leave Waltman on the base paths. The 0-1 to the leadoff hitter. Kicks, delivers, strike, and that's a tough pitch for Brookwell. There's absolutely nothing he can do with it. You have to leave it alone. It's not even a spoiler pitch. There's nothing you can do as a batter but hope it gets called a ball, and now you're down in the count 0-2 and you have to protect. He's not choking up on the bat at all. Don't see that nearly as much as you used to, or at least when you were taught to as a kid. This one outside, slides away on the 1-2 now. But needs to protect. Keep this at-bat alive. By far the most promising offensive look that the Beacons have had today. They've scored 1 on the wild pitch, but more is threatening. This one delivered and through the left side. Waltman rounds third. He will score as it's cut off by the pitcher. Caught off by the third baseman, actually. But regardless, a critical 2-out RBI single for Steve Brookwell. Holding up at second was Luke Levitt. Did not want to get cut off at third. And that is going to be the day for Matt Klarberg. The Beacons still threatening. They've scored twice. As Klarberg jogs off the mound, we will have a new pitcher. The Beacons, the offense has started to come alive. It's 6-2, 2 outs in the bottom of the 5th. So Johnson Wales goes to the bullpen trying to save themselves in this bottom of the fifth after scoring 4 in the top. You hope you can come out in the bottom and retire the Beacons quickly. That is not what happened. Beacons have scored twice. They still have 2 more men on base with 2 men out in the inning. And the pitching duties are headed over to Ben Fosberg, another first-year player from down the road, about 25, 30 minutes in Natick. And he will have to deal with Drew Metzdorf as his first task. We can't shut the book, of course, on Matt Klarberg, as the 2 runners on base are still his responsibility, but he is on the hook for at least 2, and he's hoping it remains that way. Beacons, of course, hoping the opposite. Nasty curveball to start things off. That really boosts your confidence as a pitcher. You come in and the first pitch you throw, usually you'll see a pitcher come in and throw a fastball, just trying to get a feel of it. Nope, he comes in and throws a big looping curve that catches all the strike zone for strike 1. Then tries to quick pitch and does the, oh no, they're going to keep him at the plate. They're going to say he stuck his knee out, and I would be stunned if Coach Igerbroat does not. You can see the shake of the head, but I would be cautiously surprised if he makes his way back to the dugout. He has been barking at the home plate official for the last inning. Actually, that's more calm than I thought he would be. And now he's coming back, and he's still exchanging words, but he will head back to the dugout. It's going to be a ball, and now the second base umpire, is he going to, the home plate umpire is sending him back to his spot. Thought that was going to be the second time in the last couple innings where the second base umpire overrode the home plate umpire, but that's not the case. It just comes to be a ball, and that's very unlucky for Metzdorf. Home plate umpire says he extended his left knee and drew the contact. Again, I'm definitely biased. We'll be able to take a look at the replay of it, but is this one out of the zone? I didn't see it. It's tough from that angle, but you see the side angle on the replay. Only way we'll be able to really tell. But it definitely felt harsh in the moment. 2 balls and a strike in this critical at bat for Drew Metzdorf. He swings. This one chopped. It's fair. And that's going to get Johnson and Wales out of the inning. A ground out 1-3. We'll be able to take a look at this again, potentially, and see.
For the Beacons in the bottom of the 5th inning, they scored 2 runs on 3 hits. There were no Johnson and Wales errors, and there were 2 runners left on.
Trying to see on the play.
UMass Boston by a score 6. Scheduled to bat for Johnson and Wales in the top.
Really difficult to see. And even from that angle, it's tough to see a leg extend versus retract. It almost looks the same. But at the end of it, the Beacons score twice. They do that on 3 hits. Would have liked more, but you'll take what you can get. They do cut the lead down from 6 to 4. Beacons will have a new pitcher. We'll give you the numbers on him when we come back. 6-2, Johnson and Wales through 5.
UMass Boston is a special place that needs and it deserves a special leader.
My mother, she saw the dark clouds that were gathering in Argentina. She became convinced that it was very important for me to seek safety in the United States.
The young man who spoke only Spanish at the time found his way to a community college in California.
And I was blessed because I could transfer to the University of California, Berkeley. I really understood the extraordinary power of the public research university.
I am very proud to recommend Marcelo Suarez Orozco be appointed Chancellor of the University of Massachusetts, Boston.
He's a person who's made it here through public education, so he becomes the personification of all that UMass can provide to our students.
Everyone's going to be excited about having him as our next chancellor.
I am grateful, I am humble, I am delighted. Muchas gracias.
Beacons go to the bullpen once again. They bring in DJ Lopes, the senior, 6'3", lefty from North Dartmouth, transfer from Massasoit Community College. And he will have the same task that Johnson and Wales did in the half of the last inning, trying to respond after the offense gives you some runs, shutting down the opposition in the ensuing half inning. Wildcats could not do so. Beacons hoping for a different outcome. Trevor Wan, Xavier Botello, Miles Kelly, 1, 2, 3 in the lineup to come to the plate for Johnson and Wales in the 6th inning. Still plenty of baseball to go, so Beacons doing what they needed to do. They would have liked some more in the bottom of the 5th, but you'll take 2 runs, especially if you can add a couple of more in the bottom of the 6th and keep the momentum going. But of course, that relies on Lopes shutting down the Wildcats. The numbers for Lopes on the season, just his 3rd appearance, struggled so far, but it's still the early going, and we've seen from the Johnson and Wales pitching staff that those early season numbers are not necessarily indicative of how you're going to perform on the day. But 2 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs all earned, strikeout to walk ratio not too great, but then again only 2 innings of work. 1 strikeout, 3 Ks, or 1 strikeout, 3 base on balls. Opposition hitting, though, .455 in those 2 innings. Comes out to a 13.50 ERA. But ahead in the count, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Tall lefty. Lanky delivers, hit high in the air towards center, ranging back and settling under it, and making the play is Brookwell. 1 man out in the away half of inning number 6. Keenan Metrick can shut the door on him. We can also shut the door on Klarberg. So I'll give you both of those numbers. For Metrick, 2 innings of work, faced 12 batters, struck out 3, walked 2, 3 hits, 4 runs, all earned. This one lined, and it's going to be knocked down. It is a hit, but it could have been much worse. If that doesn't catch the glove of Luke Levitt, that's a triple at minimum. He's able to knock it down, though, and limit Xavier Botello to just a single. But as soon as he went down to the ground, you got a little bit worried because he wasn't going to make the play, but he had to get glove on it, or he was going to be in big trouble.
The first baseman, number 28, Miles Kelly.
Beacons have only had 1 1-2-3 inning they've allowed to Johnson and Wales hitting. Wildcats were sent down in order in the 2nd. Every other inning, there have been base runners for the Wildcats. This one knuckled away, foul. Left side of home plate, out of play. No balls, 1 strike to the number 3 hitter, Miles Kelly. 4th time through the order now for Johnson and Wales. Throwing over to first, Waltman delivers it back to Lopes. Kelly on the day is 1 for 2. He's scored twice, also has a run batted in. Double and an RBI back in the 1st, then grounded out to Waltman in the 3rd inning over at first base, and then was hit by a pitch and made his way around to score in that 4-run 5th. Stepping off and faking the throw over to first is Lopes. For Klarberg, he goes 1 2/3 innings for Johnson and Wales. Strike 3 called. Just catching the corner, and a little bit of a delayed call from the home plate umpire. Not making any friends over in the Johnson and Wales dugout either, mind you. And a strikeout looking for Miles Kelly. 2nd out of the inning, Griffin Snyder, who has been on base all 3 times. He's 2 for 2 with a walk. Also has a run scored in that 4-run 5th. Eight hits at this point for Johnson and Wales. 6 runs, 8 hits, no errors. 2 runs, 4 hits, 2 errors. One by the shortstop, or make it the second baseman, who says this one caroms off Metzdorf's glove. It's going to be a tough play. He was never going to be able to make it. It is going to be an infield hit, and I think that's the right call. Would have been the second error on Metzdorf, but that would have been harsh. Blake at second has an error. Metzdorf has one as well. Makes it runners on first and second. And again, Johnson Wales will just not go down quietly in any inning except for that second. Second single in this sixth inning. But was given the information, the numbers on Klarberg. Goes 1 2/3, spared at the end by Fosberg finishing it off. Could have been worse if that hit by pitch was allowed to stand. Instead, it was called back, and Metzdorf would end up grounding out to the pitcher. But for Klarberg, 1 2/3, faced 10 batters. He faced more batters in his 1 2/3 than Aiden Vining did in his entire 3 innings, as Vining faced the minimum. But 10 batters faced, 1 strikeout, 1 walk, 2 runs, both earned. 1 critical wild pitch that did allow a run to score. But at the very least, kept it to that 6-2 ball game with Fosberg's help at the end. Well, as a little bit of help from the home plate umpire, to be perfectly frank. The 1-1 count outside and high to Leon. Leon a sac fly and an RBI back in the first. Reached on Metzdorf's error in the third. And an RBI single last inning as well. Strike called 2-2. It looked like the home plate umpire pointed at E.J. Leon as if he swung. Did not think that he went. Beacons will take the call regardless. The 2-2, the payoff in the dirt. Nice block once again. Corliss does play a mean catcher behind the plate, making a number of nice stops today. A lot of them in counts and situations with nobody aboard where it doesn't necessarily go down in the book as anything special, but really nice block there. And now the runners will be moving. 3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 men out, so everybody's going to get a head start. Big pitch for Lopes to get out of this and put up a 0. He delivers. It's chopped to second. Blake fields, fires to Woltman. Got him. And that'll do it. Great play by Blake, ranging backwards and firing across his body. Woltman secures the baseball. A very frustrated Kevin Casey. Boy, Kevin Casey and Brendan Eigebrook could have a beer after this one and just rant about the home plate umpire, as neither is pleased. No runs allowed, which is the most important thing, despite 2 hits, no errors, and 2 men left on base for Johnson and Wales. Off to the bottom of the 6th, 6-2, Wildcats.
My mother, she saw the dark clouds that were gathering in Argentina. She became convinced that it was very important for me to seek safety in the United States.
The young man who spoke only Spanish at the time found his way to a community college in California.
And I was blessed because I could transfer to the University of California, Berkeley. I really understood the extraordinary power of the public research university.
I am very proud to recommend Marcelo Suarez Orozco be appointed Chancellor of the University of Massachusetts, Boston.
He's a person who's made it here through public education, so he becomes the personification of all that UMass can provide to our students.
It's great to have a world-class chancellor in a world-class city.
It takes a real leader to go after a giant, and that's what Marty Meehan did here.
Everyone's going to be excited about having him as our next
So
chancellor.
Ben Fosberg's day solely consists of getting that 1 out of Drew Metzdorf, but he does his job and turns things over to Jake McDonough, the 4th hurler of the day for Kevin Casey, who continued to debate with the home plate umpire after that inning came to a close, frustrated at the call over at first base, even though, to be perfectly frank, that wasn't even the home plate umpire's call. It was the second base umpire's call, but hey, nobody's been pleased with the officiating today. And I don't think that's necessarily anything outside the norm. I don't think umpires and referees and anything else are necessarily the most fan favorite or certainly coach or player favorite people in the ball games. For McDonough, though, give you the numbers on him in just a moment as he finishes his warm-up, tosses another lefty. You'll be able to pick him out pretty easily with that bright blue glove that matches that Johnson and Wales blue. But for McDonough, this is his 5th appearance that now breaks the tie with Ryan Cormier in the early going for most appearances for the Wildcats this season. McDonough, 4 games, now 5. 2 of them he did start. And so he is their main hurler at 11 2/3, the only pitcher on the entire roster who has thrown more than 8 innings all season. So it was probably only a matter of time until we saw him. He's allowed 8 runs, all of them earned on 14 hits, has struck out 7, walked 5. And the first pitch is well outside the strike zone. 3, 4, and 5 due up to the plate for head coach Igabro. Corliss, Carrera, and Blake. Blake making that nice stop over at second base and lasering one to Waltman to get the Beacons out of that inning without any damage and giving their opportunity back to the offense. Trying to take this one back. The wind continues to blow. Still a beautiful, cloudless blue sky day from Boston, Massachusetts. But the offensive prospects did look gloomy for about 5 innings, and then things came alive a little bit more. Would have liked some more, but you take what you can get, and now you try and pile on a couple of more in this 6th inning and really start to put some pressure on McDonough and this Johnson and Wales defense. Base on balls for Corliss. First time aboard for him today, as he was 0 for 2 with a strikeout and a ground out. Kevin Carrera. A rare disappointing day to this point. 0 for 2. Gets the spot start with his .460 plus batting average. And always seems to work out that way. You finally earn your way the starting spot. Not that you could lose it in 2 at-bats, but certainly was hoping for a little bit better at the plate today. And he can change all that if he can continue to keep the rally going. Corliss gets on with a leadoff walk. You know the old baseball cliche that leadoff walk will almost always make its way around to score, and it's uncanny how often that occurs. Beacons would love for that cliche to hold true here. McDonough having difficulty finding the strike zone after walking Corliss. This one in the dirt. Or I guess the artificial turf that looks like dirt. Carrera. Hitters count. It gets even better from here. They need McDonough to throw strikes. Usually the guy that you'd expect to be the one that has the most amount of innings is the guy that you can depend on to throw strikes. But it can be difficult when a guy can start or come out in relief. McDonough, not necessarily quite sure what he is. He owns that role. But he definitely looks like a pitcher right now that is not necessarily comfortable in how he started his relief appearance here. 2 starts, now 3 relief appearances for McDonough. And he has walked to the leadoff batter and is behind 3-0. And now there's going to be a mound visit. Don't always see a mound visit in the middle of an at-bat, certainly in a 3-0 count. My guess is that this conversation, are they summoning to the bullpen already? They are. They're going to lift him in the middle of the at-bat. Kevin Casey saw McDonough. I think McDonough was really out there to see if he could get quick outs. And when that wasn't happening, Kevin Casey pulls the plug. Said it's rare to see a mound visit in the middle of an at-bat. Well, it's even rarer to see a pitching change in the middle of an at-bat. So Jake McDonough's day lasts 8 pitches and 7 balls. And so Jake Hernandez, who's listed as a pitcher slash infielder, the long, lanky, 6'3", 170-pounder, will pitch with a 3-0 count. Hernandez out of Missouri City, Texas. Yep, that's the name of it. Heads to the hill. Genuinely curious. One of those questions regardless of kind of the outcome of this game, and certainly depending on the outcome of this inning, you have an opportunity to talk to Coach Kevin Casey out of this after this game. One of the questions I would definitely ask is, what was the thought process between lifting one of your main hurlers after 8 pitches in a 3-0 count? But, you know, there's a method to the madness. I don't know what that is, but I have to assume that there is one. And that's why I'm behind the microphone and Coach Casey is behind the dugout as a 4th season manager at Johnson and Wales. But it's certainly an interesting play, and we will see how that turns out. So McDonough obviously cannot close the book on him at all, as he is responsible for the runner at first base. And so for Jake Hernandez, an interesting situation, not one that you're necessarily accustomed to coming in for. Coming in middle of a count, you usually only see that with an injury to a pitcher. But McDonough, for Hernandez, this is his 4th relief appearance, 6 2/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 runs, both of them earned, has struck out 3 and walked 4. And he's technically only a ball away from walking this batter, and he does. So a very odd situation. But back-to-back walks to start things off for UMass Boston in the home half of the 6th inning. Brings up Aiden Blake. Still trying to get over the decision to lift McDonough mid-at-bat. Didn't look like any kind of injury. But for Blake, a marquee situation. Beacons down by 4. But knocking on the door of another decently big inning. Got 2 in the bottom of the 5th. Would have liked more, and, well, maybe here's their opportunity. Blake squares around to bunt. First baseman creeps in. Blake pulls the bat head back. Strike called. Not too happy about it. He's talking with the home plate umpire, but it did look like a strike. So, corner infielders prepared for the bunt. Miles Kelly down the line at first. Xavier Botello at third. See if Blake squares to bunt again, or if he goes back to potentially trying to drive one down the line. He does not square to bunt. Not sure if that was a curve or a changeup. Either way, hung out to the right to even the count at 1 ball and a strike. For Blake, a ground out to third in the 2nd inning, and then a single that he would score on the wild pitch last inning. The 1-1 inside. There was a brief moment there where I think Aiden Blake actually thought about potentially letting it hit him, and he realized that that's been called back twice today, and so just makes the smart move, pulls the bat back, allows it to go outside for a ball, or inside for a ball, outside the zone. This game is suddenly becoming a lot more interesting, which is exactly how we like it here on the Beacon Broadcast Network. Swung on, fouled behind the plate, out of play. But battling back into a now 2-2 count is Jake Hernandez. This game was started by Aiden Vining for Johnson and Wales, and that feels like a long time ago where he went 3 perfect innings. Might have had a little bit more in the tank, but instead they went to Klarberg. The Beacons have started to get the bats going. This one lofted to center. Long run. Does it fall? It does! Flipped up into the air, and it's flipped away. And now it's going to be an error on the center fielder. It's going to turn into, I think, a single and then an E8. I have no idea what just happened. Trevor Wan went down and then just tried to flip it backward to the right fielder, E.J. Leone, and in doing so flips it past Leone and deeper into right center field. Now we have the very fun responsibility of trying to track where everybody should be on the base paths. So when that falls, Craig Corliss makes his way to third. it's a single. It doesn't end up as an RBI for Aiden Blake. So it's a single E8. Corliss scores from second, but he advances from third to home on the E8. Beacons get the run, which is the most important thing, and they have 2 runners in scoring position, and Zerilli Jr., with one swing, getting it through the infield, could make this a 6-5 ball game with still a full third of our innings to play. Zerilli waggles the bat, takes this one inside. So Kevin Carrera is now on third base, with Aiden Blake on second, advancing 90 feet due to the error by Trevor Wan. Kicking and delivering. Hernandez, this one driven to short. Only has one play, run scores. RBI ground out for Gianni Zerilli Jr., and the Beacons have cut the deficit to 6-4. Also alert base running from Aiden Blake. As soon as that bat cracked, even though it was to the left side of the infield, he was still able to move up 90 feet. Carrera scores. You take the RBI ground out, no doubt about it for Zerilli, and the Beacons, still with the inning alive, have scored multiple runs for the second straight inning. This one curves away from the batter, but still well inside the strike zone to Thomas Q. 2 hits and a walk in this inning. I've brought the Beacons right back into it. Q squares to bunt. He hits it high. Catcher's not going to get there. Davis. Q trying to bunt his way aboard. Could not call it a squeeze play with... There only one out in this inning? I think I misplayed the number of outs. It would have been a squeeze play if he had been able to lay that down. Runner was not taking off, so it would have been a sacrifice squeeze for Thomas Q. Misconstrued the error for an out. That's on me. So just one man out for Thomas Q. Does not square to bunt this time. 2 balls and a strike to the number 7 hitter. No big blows in this game by either squad. Been taking the opportunities that have been given, though, over the last couple innings on both sides, as we now have 8 combined runs, as this one whiffled foul down the third baseline. Didn't quite get the contact that he wanted. Count evens at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Jake Waltman waits in the on-deck circle off to our right, hoping an opportunity comes his way. Represents the lead run. The bottom of the 6th. Q takes this one in the turf. Count runs full. Obviously 2 empty bases. But you would not like to have a third walk in this inning by Johnson and Wales pitching. This inning was started by Jake McDonough. He threw 7 pitches and was lifted in the middle of an at-bat with a 3-0 count as Q chases and swings through strike 3 for the second out of the inning. Jake Waltman, 1 for 2. A single and a run scored along with the strikeout, swinging back in the third. See that 267 batting average coming in. It's been one of the areas that Brendan Eigebrot has been trying to figure out in the early part of the season, is exactly who his everyday first baseman is going to be. But for Waltman, now his 6th start. This one fouled off, goes in between the legs of Davis, but it is foul. But the 6th start for Waltman over at first base. He has appeared in all 9 games, now 10. 5 for 16, his updated line. 4 runs batted in. Does have a homer along with a double. Down in the count, no balls and a strike. Davis sets up outside. Curveball is called a strike. Well, the Home plate umpire has gone back to calling the outside corner a strike to the righties. He had that for about 4 innings, then went away from it for a couple of innings, drew the ire of both head coaches, and then went back to it. This one lifted to right. It's going to be a long run. It could fall. It does. One hops the short corner wall. Waltman trundles into second. It's an RBI double. 6-5. Beacons right back in it. The wind carries it further and further away from E.J. Leon. Waltman's second hit of the day. It's a big one. Walking his way home from third base, Aiden Blake. RBI double for Waltman. He rewards Coach Eigerbrodt for leaving him in after his single in the last inning. Could have been lifted for a pinch runner. Instead, they leave him on the base pass, and he rewards them by scoring in the 5th and then getting a critical RBI double in the 6th. 3 runs across for UMass Boston. Corliss, Carrera, and Blake have all now scored. And the Beacons have the tying run in scoring position. And there's still a lot of baseball to play. Couldn't ask for necessarily a better day to do it. Not a ton of fans in the stands with the chilly, breezy weather, but still, anytime you can come out on a Tuesday afternoon and watch baseball in a cloudless blue sky in Boston, why wouldn't you? This one gets through, nutmegs pass ball on the catcher. And the tying run is now just 90 feet away. Luke Levitt, the number 9 hitter, 0 for 1 with a walk. Also flew out to center. Takes the 1-1 pitch. He swings. He grounds it to short, and he's fast. Moving across the diamond, but making a nice play over at short. To end the inning is Riley Hassan, but not before UMass Boston strikes 3 times. They do it courtesy of 2 hits, 2 walks, 1 big error out in center by Trevor Wan. They do strand the runner at third base, but heading to the 7th inning, it's a whole new baseball game. 6-5, Johnson and Wales with the slim lead.
I think it's a new era at UMass Boston where only good things can happen.
It's great to have a world-class chancellor in a world-class city.
He can bring people together.
He is a world-class academic leader and is one of the pioneers of the field of immigration studies. I felt that this was the grand mission that was kind of the culmination of his research, his leadership. He sees what he could do at UMass as really leaving a mark for generations of students to come.
I am very proud to recommend Marcelo Flores Orozco be appointed Chancellor of the University of Massachusetts, Boston.
I think that the responsibility of the chancellor is to tell and retell the story of the fundamental contributions a public research university make and will continue to make moving forward. In this unique city, the city of education, the city of immigration, our Athens.
I believe that Marcelo is the right person at the right time.
Everyone's going to be excited about having him as our next chancellor.
We're off to the 7th inning. Beacons have scored the last 5 runs to cut what was once a 6-0 Johnson & Wales lead to now just 6-5. Jake McDonough, even though he did not finish the second batter of that inning, Kevin Carrera, he left with a 3-0 count. And when you do that, you technically still have the result of what happens to that batter on your record. So even though it was actually Hernandez who threw the 4th ball, it does get credited to Jake McDonough. So we close the line on him. He does not record an out, faces 2 batters and walks them both, and because both of them came around to score, they are both his earned runs. The 3rd earned run goes to Jake Hernandez. We obviously don't know if he will be back out for the home half of the 7th. I would be surprised if he did, but you never know. It is Lopes still out there for Brendan Eigerbrodt in what is now a 6-5 game. And a couple innings ago when it was 6-0 and Coach Eigerbrodt was having a shouting contest with the home plate umpire, you weren't sure whether he was just doing it out of frustration or trying to light a fire under his team. Whichever one it did, it worked, as this one will ping off the ankle. Luckily, you have the ankle guard on there. Of the number 6 hitter, Nicholas Fortes. He came in as a pinch hit in the DH spot for Cody Pfeiffer in the 5th and rewarded his team with a 2-run single. So stayed in the game at the DH spot. And he's on base for the second time. Now 1 for 1 with a walk and that 2-run single, or hit by pitch, I should say. Owen Davis is currently trying to avoid the golden sombrero. He struck out swinging in the 1st, looking in the 4th, swinging in the 5th. One more and he would have that dubious honor. He avoids that by lying down a sacrifice bunt. Thrown across the diamond nicely to retire it. So Davis does his job, records the first out, but moves Fortes from 1st to 2nd.
The shortstop, number 9,
Riley Hassan in the 8th spot, trying to get something done for Johnson and Wales, who definitely knew that the game wasn't out of reach, but felt pretty good at 6-0 into the bottom of the 5th, especially after your starting pitcher gave you 3 perfect innings and you'd wiggled out of a little bit of traffic after that. But the Beacons have found ways to push runs across. It's just a 1-run game as we get into the final 3rd. Strike 1 called for Riley Hassan. He's 0 for 2. Flew out, walked, and was on when that double play happened. He's down in the count. No balls and 2 strikes. Six runs, 9 hits, 1 error for Johnson and Wales. The slim 1-run edge over the Beacons. 5 runs, 6 hits, 2 errors. Lopes. Good play by Corliss to extend that left-handed catcher's glove. Snag that one, which was well outside to his left. Still 1-2. You want to call that one a waster pitch, I'll give it to you. A little bit of an overthrow from DJ Lopes. Did not expect after Cole Porter was lifted after 3 innings and 3 perfect for Maiden Vining that the Beacons would actually have less pitchers through this point in the game, but this is only their 3rd. Another pitch. Throwing across his body, Lopes, the lefty. All about release point arm angle. And right now just releasing it a little late, overthrowing it. That results in that ball whipping across your body, across the plate, and out of the zone. 2 balls, 2 strikes. 1 out, swung on, hit the other way. Ranging all the way back, and now coming in to make the play was Thomas Q. He has had difficulties judging the wind out there, but this time ranges well back and then has to dart his way in. But makes the catch. Doesn't have to be convincing, as long as it finds its way into the glove at the end of it. So Hassan flies out to left. Brings up Jack McGain. And for Lopes, with a runner on second base and 2 out, you want to make sure that you do not get back to Trevor Wan at the top of the lineup, and you end this inning right here and now. Raises the right knee, delivers, and you see he likes that pitch. Had the player guessing off speed and then just waving at the strike without any real conviction. Jack McGain, 0 for 3 with a strikeout looking, a fly out to Thomas Q in left, and then a 5-4-3 double play that he grounded into in the 5th, and that does look big now. At the time, it finished what was at a 4-run inning, made it 6-0. But I think Johnson and Wales would love to go back to that point now and add a couple more insurance runs, as the Beacons have since struck for 5 unanswered at this point and have cut a 6-0 deficit to just a 6-5 ball game. No balls and a strike. Lopes delivers in the dirt. Another nice stop from Corliss. He is on his toes back there. Goes into the traditional catcher's crouch. We've seen some catchers at this point go down to one knee, but I can tell you, you don't make that stop unless you're in the always uncomfortable but always important catcher's crouch down there. Count even 1-1. Lopes sends a fastball, jumping out in front of it that time and spoiling it away was McGain. But now one strike away is Lopes from putting up another big 0 on that Johnson & Wales scoreboard out in left center field. Beacon's offense has come to life the last 2 innings, and they want to get back out there as quickly as possible. This one, chopped back up the middle, ranging over. Mazzilli makes the throw. Waltman makes the pick. End of inning. Another nice play by Waltman. He's doing it with the bat. He's doing it with the glove. No runs, no hits, no errors. One man left on base. That was the hit by pitch. But it is the 7th inning stretch. The Beacons are right in this one. It's 6-5 Wildcats. We'll see you after the stretch. Hernandez does remain in the game as the Beacons come up in the bottom of the 7th. Can't have any baseball without a little bit of Tom Petty playing in the background. Beacons offense certainly has learned to fly a little bit more over the last 2 innings of work as they have put up the last 5 runs of the ball game. 2 in the bottom of the 5th, 3 in the bottom of the 6th. And their reward with that is the top 3 in the lineup coming up to the plate in the home half of the 7th. Steve Brookwell, Drew Metzdorf, and Craig Corliss to come to the plate against Jake Hernandez, who did concede 1 earned run of the 3 that were given up by Johnson & Wales in the bottom of the 6th. This would definitely be, again, up there in one of the heartbreaking results as Johnson & Wales just 1 win on the season. They've been in a lot of games, but their pitching has let them down and they've given up too many crooked innings. Beacons would love to subject them to further misery in the bottom of this 7th inning, and they got the guys up there to do it. Brookwell takes a filthy change-up. Had a little bit of curve action too, but I think it was a change from Hernandez. Coming in there inside of 70 miles an hour, just took all the speed off of that pitch, and then comes back inside with a fastball. And I think Brookwell was lucky to get away with it. It was definitely inside, but we've seen it called a strike today, which is why I think Brookwell was a little bit fortunate that he did get the call this time. Count evens 1-1. And then he goes chasing. Doesn't get anything on it. Swings through strike 2. Hernandez definitely has Brookwell guessing at the moment. He's gone off speed, fastball off speed, and he's targeted 3 different areas of the plate, which sets up really anything on the 1-2. And he ends up going right down the middle, and Brookwell swings through it. Strikeout swinging for Brookwell. Drops into 1 for 4 on the day with 3 strikeouts, all of them swinging. Drew Metzdorf, 1 for 3. Doubled off the mini monster, 1 hopper back in the 4th. Started his day with a strikeout looking in the 1st before grounding out 1-3 in the 5th. He was the player that was up when he got hit, and the home plate umpire called him back saying he extended his left knee to try and draw contact. Brought him back to home plate, so instead of it being bases loaded 2 out, it remained 1st and 2nd and 1 out. And Metzdorf ended up knuckling one off the home plate back to the pitcher, who retired him to end the side. Quickly down in the count, no balls and 2 strikes, as Hernandez has come out throwing some filthy stuff in the bottom of the 7th inning, trying to settle things down for Johnson and Wales. He's ahead in the count 0-2. Another one, and this time the home plate umpire does send Metzdorf down to first. So a little bit of payback potentially. Painful payback, but I guess you could call it that for Metzdorf. Runner on first, one man out for Craig Corliss. It has not been your typical Corliss day. He does have a run scored, a walk, that he got his last time up last inning. But 0 for 2, a strikeout, a ground out, and that walk. Metzdorf slides back into first. Kevin Carrera waits on deck, the lefty. Calling for time is Corliss. Now he steps back in, and now the umpire says, all right, let's reset things. Strike one, poured right down the pipe by Hernandez. Jake Hernandez did throw 3 innings of relief in one of the SUNY Cortland games. Only allowed 2 hits. Is taking off is Metzdorf. He will get in there well ahead of the throw. Stolen base, beautifully timed. And the Beacons' tying run is now standing in scoring position. But Hernandez had 3 innings in what was the first game of their 3-game set at SUNY Cortland. 3 innings, 2 hits, struck out 2, didn't walk anybody, and didn't allow a run. But the offense could not pick him up as Johnson and Wales fell 7-5 in that first game of 3. The pitch bounced outside. Another hitter's count for Corliss. You do have the base open at first. You don't want to give Corliss something that he can drive. But the player on deck is no slouch either in Kevin Carrera. He hasn't had his best day, but he can certainly hit, leading the way in average in his part-time position so far this season. Corliss gets behind it, pops it up. Davis ranging back. Does it spin back in play? It does not. It bounces before he even got to the first row of the seats, and Corliss is going to get a reprieve. Sometimes you see a ball like that comes back into play, why it's so difficult as a catcher. When that goes up, sometimes it spins back. But just enough to get it over the protective netting here at Monin Park. And Corliss with a 2-2 count gets another look at it. Standing on second is Metzdorf. Hit by a pitch, stole second. Long look back from Hernandez, excuse me. And now he steps off, fakes his way back, and you hear the jeers from the UMass Boston bench. All the momentum with the Beacons at the moment. The 2-2. Strike 3. Corliss down looking on a pitch low. But that has been called a strike for most of the day, I will say. That's one of those you just kind of have to stick the bat head out and just spoil that right at your own dugout. You can apologize to your teammates later, but you just kind of want to flare that one foul and live to see another pitch. You cannot take one that close with the way the umpire has been calling this. So now it's 2 out for Kevin Carrera. He swings and nubs one back to the pitcher. Hernandez to first in time to get the 3rd out. So the Beacons threaten, but they strand the runner at second base. No runs, no hits, no errors. The runner is left on second, and we are off to inning number 8. It's 6-5, Johnson Wales with the 1-run edge.
UMass Boston is a special place that needs and it deserves a special leader.
My mother, she saw the dark clouds that were gathering in Argentina. She became convinced that it was very important for me to seek safety in the United States.
The young man who spoke only Spanish at the time found his way to a community college in California.
And I was blessed because I could transfer to the University of California, Berkeley. I really understood the extraordinary power of the public research university.
I am very proud to recommend Marcelo Suarez Orozco be appointed Chancellor of the University of Massachusetts, Boston.
He's a person who's made it here through public education, so he becomes the personification of all that UMass can provide to our students.
Everyone's going to be excited about having him as our next chancellor.
I am grateful, I am humble, I am delighted. Muchas gracias.
So DJ Lopes comes in, gives 2 strong innings of work, faces everybody in the order once, strikes out 1, doesn't walk anybody. He did hit a batter, but most importantly, does not allow a run. So that brings in Ethan Herrera. You see his numbers there. Hasn't recorded a decision so far on the young season. Has an ERA of 6.00. Diving into that further, this is his 4th relief appearance of the season. In those 3 innings that he's done over those 3 appearances, 5 hits, 2 runs, both earned. Struck out 5, has not walked a batter yet this season. Weren't quite sure exactly what position Ethan Herrera was going to play on the young season. He is normally an outfielder and listed as a pure outfielder from Newington, Connecticut. It's 6 foot 189 on the roster, but he has carved himself a role out of the bullpen, and he comes in no mop-up duty, that's for sure. 6-5 ball game, 8th inning. So Coach Igerbrook has trusted Herrera in this situation. Hernandez getting out of a jam for Johnson and Wales, who have seen their 6-0 lead cut all the way down to 6-5, but it is still a lead, and they would love to add at least 1 insurance run in this 8th inning. To do that, they will turn it over to the top of their order, Trevor, Juan, Botello, and Kelly. Skips past Corliss. Juan on the day, 1 for 4. Started this day way back in the first, led off with a double and would score on a Miles Kelly double 2 batters later. But 0 for 3 since then. Pop out in foul territory on that nice play by Blake. Struck out swinging, fly out to center. Count is currently even, 1 ball, 1 strike. Herrera with that little step back and then uncorks his pitches. So not a lot of windup and delivery. Tough to pick up the motion. But once he unfurls his body to send the pitch in there, it comes in fast. This one driven out to center. Q. Had that one read the entire way. Make it Brookwell, excuse me. Puts it away for the F8. Brings up Botello, so a 1 for 5 day for Trevor Juan. Botello currently working on a 1 for 3 outing. A ground out, a strikeout, a walk and a run scored, and then a single.
The third baseman, number 33, Xavier Botello.
Mentioned the Beacons have 1 more home game coming up in 2 days' time. Or 1 more road game, non-conference, at Salve Regina before they start off conference play with the doubleheader against Western Connecticut on Saturday. This one driven by Botello. Should have room, and there is room for Q in left. Wind not helping Botello. He got a lot of bat on it, but out and left, that's going to take an absolute bomb to carry out of here with the wind blowing in the polar opposite direction. So quick 2 up, 2 down, 2 flyouts for Ethan Herrera. Strike 1 call by the home plate umpire, just catching the outside corner. After this, for Johnston and Wales, they will return home for a game against Suffolk in 48 hours. 4 o'clock first pitch time. And then they will start GNAC play this weekend as well. They will travel up to Maine and take on St. Joseph's Saturday at 1 and 3:30 in the doubleheader. Then they will have non-conference play against Coast Guard and a doubleheader Sunday. GNAC, a smaller conference than the Little East, so not quite as many home games, but once they hit April, plenty of games in GNAC play. Anna Maria, Colby Sawyer, Norwich. Anyone who watches Beacon ice hockey, very familiar with the Cadets. This one golfed to right. 3 fly balls to all 3 outfielders. All 3 make the play as Levitt snags it and sends it to a 1-2-3, top of the 8th. Well, 3 drives, but none of them nearly enough to get out of the ballpark. We are off to the bottom of the 8th inning. 6-5, Johnson and Wales nurses a 1-run lead. Coach Kevin Casey showing faith in Jake Hernandez. Now in for a 3rd inning. Came in with a 3-0 count in the second batter of the 6th inning. Or the 7th inning. No, it was the 6th. Mine's not working. But gave up 1 run. 3 crossed while he was pitching, but only 1 was credited to him in the 6th. Then got into a little spot of trouble in the 7th, but worked his way out of it, courtesy of a nice backwards K on Corliss, before retiring on a ground out to the pitcher to end the inning. But this is now his 3rd inning as Johnson and Wales saw some struggles when they first turned it over to the bullpen. And they've seen what Hernandez can do. Had a really strong 7th inning, so hoping he can get them through the 8th. I would be shocked if he could go another inning, but he has gone 3. We mentioned his last outing was a 3-inning, 2-hit game against SUNY Cortland. First pitch fouled off high behind Monin Park, out of play. Beacons trailing by 1. Trailed this one 6-0 heading into the bottom of the 5th inning. They would score 2 in the bottom of that frame, 3 in the bottom of the 6th to cut this lead to 6-5. They have done their damage by getting the leadoff man on base. In the 5th, they got a leadoff single from Aiden Blake. In the 6th, a leadoff walk from Craig Corliss, and both those players would come around to score. 2 balls and a strike from Jake Hernandez. Beacon sending up 5, 6, and 7. Blake, Zerilli, and Q in this 8th inning. Swung on late, well behind it. Doesn't look like Blake was expecting a fastball, but had to swing at it. Now 2 balls and 2 strikes for the Beacons. Still a bright sunny day. Floodlights have turned themselves on, but hopefully we won't have to depend on them by the conclusion of this ball game. 6:50 is the scheduled sunset time today, so still an hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes or so before that scheduled time. The wind continues to blow across the field, left to right and out toward right center. We've seen a couple of hits bloop their way in out there, taken away from the right fielder. We've also seen a couple of nice hits out to left field get spoiled by the wind for both sides. Full count as battling is Aiden Blake. Another payoff pitch on its way from Hernandez. It is called strike 3. Frustrated Aiden Blake. You don't have to necessarily agree with the call, but you do have to acknowledge that outside of maybe a 2-inning spurt in the middle there, that's been called a strike for most of the day. And relying on that to be called a ball is playing with fire. And so it is another backwards K on another outside pitch to a right-handed hitter. And the Beacons have gotten burned on that now a number of times today. It's the fourth backwards K that the Beacons have gone down to. They've gone down looking, I believe, the same number of times. Now, they've gone down swinging one more time than they've gone down looking. It's their 9th strikeout. 5 swinging, 4 looking through 7 1/3. Swinging at that one, no hesitation on the 2-0 pitch is Gianni Zerli Jr. Brandon Eichenberg has not gone to his bench yet at all. We've only seen one substitution. That was Nicholas Fortes coming in the DH hole to replace Cody Pfeiffer for Johnson and Wales. Beacons have stayed with the same 9 out on the field for the entire game so far, offensively and defensively. Hernandez has battled back into the count, was behind 2-0. Back-to-back foul balls, now 2-2. Off speed, well away, but good discipline by Zerli to realize that that one was well outside the zone. Definitely protecting the outside, knows he has to make sure that anything's close out there, he's got to go after it. But that time watches it off speed. This time fights it off, but it's going to bloop into the second baseman's glove. Easily snagged there by Jack McGain for the second out of this inning. Hernandez has really settled things down. You felt all the momentum was with UMass Boston when they scored those 5 runs. But coming into the 7th inning, Hernandez settled things down, has pitched extremely well since then. Just 1 base runner over the last 2 innings. That was the hit by pitch. Metzdorf did get into scoring position on the stolen base, but then was stranded there by Corliss and Carrera, which definitely hurts. You want those guys up there, and they couldn't come through. And now Hernandez continues to get balls into the strike zone. Throws a changeup, which Thomas Q watches into the catcher's glove for a strike. Goes from changeup to curve. 1 ball, 1 strike. Out of the zone, though, on the second pitch of that bat. You're watching the Beacon Broadcast Network on a Tuesday afternoon. Mason Stauff with you, as that one is called a strike. A befuddled glare from Thomas Q. Looked over at his bench as if to say, what was I supposed to do? And now he has to battle into a 1-2 count. 1 strike away from sending us to the 9th. It's a nice foul off there by Q. It's the one thing we haven't probably seen enough of from UMass Boston in those 9 strikeouts. They really haven't battled in those strikeouts. Even if you're going to go down, you want to go down swinging. They haven't done so 4 times. Sitting back on that, had he sat back just another split second, might have really been able to drive that as he rips it foul down the third base side. Q down in the count, but not out yet. Beacons down to their final out of the 8th inning, trailing this one 6-5. Q swings and fouls another one off. And one of the better battles we've seen. Hernandez trying to get through 3 innings with just 1 run to his name. Beacons do have somebody working, as this one is a fair ball down the left field line. Rounding first and heading for second is Q. He rounds second, takes a big turn, but they do get it in quick enough and did not commit the cardinal sin of ending an inning at third base by getting thrown out on the base paths. He knows he can score on a single, so plays it safe, but it is a clutch 2-out double for Thomas Q. Battles, fouls off a couple of pitches, puts himself in a position where he can drive one and gets it over the third base bag. Beacons call for time. They will powwow with Jake Woltman. He has had a really strong day, both offensively and defensively, making a number of beautiful picks over at first base. He's also 2 for 3 with a single, a double, and a run scored. Also has a run batted in as well as he drove in Blake with his double. So you will definitely take 2 for 3 with a run scored and a run batted in for Jake Waltman, along with some good defense at first. But now all of that doesn't matter too much if you can't come through in this situation. Baseball is a fickle game. You can have a great day, but if you don't come through in the big at bat, then that's the one you remember. Leading off of second, Thomas Q with a 2-out double. Waltman digs in, tying run, stands in scoring position. First pitch, he drives it. That's going to tie the game. Doesn't wait. Waltman with his second double of the day, and we are tied. Mentioned that one of the areas that Brendan Eigebrodt was trying to figure out coming into this season was who was going to be his starting first baseman. I think he may have found it. Jake Waltman doesn't wait, takes the first pitch at the at-bat, and ties this game at 2, and now he will be lifted for the pinch runner. Chris Ducko is going to come in as a pinch runner for Waltman. But the damage is done. And Jake Waltman, if the Beacons end up winning this game, is your player of the day. 3 for 4 with a run scored and 2 runs batted in, 2 extra base hits. And we may as well start this game over now. 6-6. They leave Hernandez out there. They are showing tremendous trust in him. Well, it's a combination of trust in him as well as potentially distrust in whoever would replace him. Take with that what you will, but he has got to get out of this inning. And this one is driven high. Long run, settling under it. The right fielder, he calls off the center fielder, and he makes the play. Snagged out there by E.J. Leone. So giving it a high ride, Luke Levitt. Can't do it, but the Beacons do their damage with back-to-back 2-out doubles. The first, Thomas Q roping it over the bag in third. And then Jake Waltman driving it on the next pitch down the left field line. Fair ball, knew it right off the bat. And with 1 run on 2 hits, no errors, and 1 man left, the Beacons have tied this game at 6. We head to the 9th. New hurler heads to the hill. We'll talk about him when we come back.
My mother, she saw the dark clouds that were gathering in Argentina. She became convinced that it was very important for me to seek safety in the United States.
The young man who spoke only Spanish at the time found his way to a community college in California.
And I was blessed because I could transfer to the University of California, Berkeley. I really understood the extraordinary power of the public research university.
I am very proud to recommend Marcelo Suarez Orozco be appointed Chancellor of the University of Massachusetts, Boston.
He's a person who's made it here through public education, so he becomes the personification of all that UMass can provide to our students.
It's great to have a world-class chancellor in a world-class city.
It takes a real leader to go after a giant, and that's what Marty Meehan did here.
Everyone's going to be excited about having him as our next chancellor.
So it is Josh Eastman who pitches for the first time in the last 4 games. He got his first save of the season after an outstanding 3 2/3 innings of work in the opener against the Tornadoes of Concordia, Texas back on the 17th. 3 2/3, allowed just 3 hits, 1 run, it was earned, struck out 5, walked 3, holding Concordia, Texas to a minimum Just the one run in that 9th inning, but it was enough to get the Beacons a 4-3 low-scoring victory. The rest of the games would be a lot more high-scoring, except for the one that Concordia won, which was also a 4-3 result. The other ones were Beacon 7-2 and 12-5 victories. The side armor Eastman absolutely befuddles Griffin Snyder with the first pitch, goes with the changeup, and has him waving at it. Eastman, the graduate student from Marshfield, is quickly ahead in the count 0-2 as that one's fouled away. Eastman, the transfer from Division II, Southern New Hampshire, the Penman. But the de facto closer, even though this is not a save situation in a tie ball game, but still a critical situation. And Eastman, in his 4th appearance, an ERA of just 1.59, 5 2/3 innings pitched, just that one allowed in that last game that he played against Concordia. And you can see he has Griffin Snyder well off balance. Not sure if it's going to be a fastball or off speed. He went off speed on that last one, and Snyder, all he could do was just wave the bat at it and hope he got lucky, which he did, fouled it off, and still has an 0-2 count. And now he waves through that one, completely fooled. They're going to say it did not hit the turf, so they just get to go around the horn, 1 up, 1 down for Eastman in the top of the 9th. Beacons have battled all the way back from a 6-0 deficit at the midway point through 4.5. 2 in the 5th, 3 in the 6th, 1 in the 8th. The one in the 8th was the one that you weren't sure if was going to come. The first 2 were pretty quick outs from Hernandez. And then an extended battle, something that the Beacons had not done a good enough job on today. But Thomas Q heard that, battled, ropes a double down the third baseline, and Woltman follows up on the next pitch with a double of his own down that same left field line. As soon as it left Woltman's bat, you knew it would fall in there for extra bases. Q jogs home. We're tied at 6. Eastman with a 1-1 count. Fastball up and away to E.J. Leon. Sac fly and an RBI back in the 1st. Reached on the E5 of Metzdorf in the 3rd. RBI single in the 5th. Hit by pitch in the 7th. Foul ball just outside of 1st. Going oppo. So that equates to a 1-for-2 day with a run scored and 2 runs batted in. So nothing to slouch at for E.J. Leon. Not too surprising. He is one of their better hitters, hitting .259, but leads the team in runs batted in, so he's added 2 more to that category. This one just outside. Beacon dugout certainly wanted that to be called strike 3. But even with an umpire that has been calling the outside strike to the righties, that one was a little bit too much to ask for, I guess. Count runs full. Eastman delivers his 3-2, sidearms it in there. That's got to be strike 3, and it is. And Leon knew it. As soon as it hit the back of the glove, he turned around and walked back. Back-to-back Ks, one of each variety for Eastman. Leaves it to Nicholas Fortes, excuse me. As the last hope in the 9th, Johnson and Wales has had all the life sucked out since the midway point. You felt you led it 6-0, but you definitely knew that there was more to be had, particularly in that four-run top of the 5th when you grounded into an inning-ending 5-4-3 double play. At the time, you wondered if 6 would be enough because you knew that this Johnson and Wales pitching staff was not known for shutting down its opposition through the first couple of weeks of the season. And it hasn't been a complete implosion, but the Beacons have done enough, and they've gotten opportune hitting, which is really what it comes down to in the game of baseball. You can get plenty of hits, you can get base runners, but there is a whole different ball game between getting on base and getting runs across, and the Beacons hitting with the right players at the right time, taking the right pitches in the right situations, and have worked their way back from a 6-run deficit. It's a non-conference game, but if the Beacons can see this one out, this one will feel extra good. Routine ground ball to short. Played on 3 hops. Fire across from Zerilli in plenty of time, and Eastman gets the job done. 1, 2, and 3 in this top of the 9th inning. The bottom of the 9th is upcoming. The Beacons, if they win it, it'll be in walk-off faction. We'll see if they can do it right after this. Noah Reeder has the high-pressure job of retiring UMass Boston and forcing this one to go to extra innings. Jake Hernandez goes 3 innings. You don't count that walk that he delivered that was just ball 4 to a batter that was really started by Jake McDonough. So 3 innings, faces 14 officially, strikes out 4, doesn't walk anybody, does hit a batter, gives up 4 hits and 2 critical runs, 1 in the 6th inning and 1 on that game-tying double by Jake Woltman in the 8th. And now it is up to Noah Reeder to retire UMass Boston and force us to extra frames. Noah Reeder, another first year. This entire pitching staff at this point feels like it's made up of first-year players for Johnson and Wales. He doubles as an outfielder as well, 5'10", 175 out of Davidsonville, Maryland. 1, 2, and 3 in the order. Beacons have done that a couple of times today where they've gone Brookwell, Metzdorf, and Corliss outside of just the first 3, of course, in the first inning. So you like these 3 up in this situation for UMass Boston, but they're getting contributions from a lot of different places. Jake Woltman, of course, being the most notable with his 2 doubles, runs scored, and multiple runs batted in. Upstairs from Reeder. This is his 4th appearance. Does have a save across those 3, now 4 games that he's pitched in. 3 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 run. It was earned. Struck out 3, walked 1. One ball and 2 strikes to Brookwell, the leadoff man. He's trying to fend off a golden sombrero as well, with 3 strikeouts swinging to this point to go along with an RBI single back in the 5th inning. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Beacons trying to get the leadoff man aboard, which would represent the game-winning run. Just ahead of it, Brookwell probably wants that pitch back. He liked it. As soon as it was released from the hand of Reeder, he was going after it, but just couldn't stay back on it. And drives what he probably was hoping was going to be a fastball and ends up being a change. Pummels it down the third baseline, but well foul. The 2-2. Another off-speed pitch. Well spoiled. Like the battles that I'm seeing, though, from UMass Boston, though, over the last couple of innings. Can't get a hit every time, but they are certainly making Johnson and Wales pitching work a lot more than they were early in the ballgame. Another 2-2 in the turf. Full count. Only thing worse than walking the leadoff hitter is walking the leadoff hitter in the bottom of the ninth. Brookwell waits for the payoff. He swings and he pops this one up on the infield. Can the wind bring it out of play? It can. And Brookwell gets a little lucky, but he gets another bite at it. Was up there for an eternity, but as soon as it went to the right side, you had the feeling that the wind, even though it's not blowing as harshly as it was earlier in the game, and we've certainly had some steep gusts over the course of the 9 innings, but you just hoped and prayed that that one would make it out of play, and it did. And now Reeder's got to do another good pitch. And he doesn't. He throws it out of the zone for ball 4. A leadoff walk. Brookwell will stand at first base, representing the game-winning run. There's probably going to be a conference here for UMass Boston to determine the situation. This is obviously a situation where Drew Metzdorf could lay down the sacrifice bunt if that's the way they decide to go. How confident do they have in his ability to get one down and move the runner 90 feet? You want to have Corliss, at minimum, have a runner on second base in less than 2 out to drive home the winning run. I would be shocked if you don't at least see Metzdorf square to bunt. You're going to have the third baseman for Johnson and Wales, Xavier Botello. He's definitely going to be expecting that. First baseman has to hold on. Steve Brookwell at first. They're going to go check on him, and they throw it away. They're not going to need the sac bunt. It's an E1. Brookwell can hold right there. No need to go any further. And a critical throwaway error. Noah Reeder trying his best just to keep Brookwell close. But he fires it away. And now that whole conversation that UMass Boston did isn't even necessary. No need to advance the runner from first to second. I would not be stunned, though, if that only solidifies the need to potentially lay down a sac bunt and move him from second to third, and then a flyout wins this ballgame. So an E1 moves Brookwell up 90 feet, and now we'll see if Metzdorf squares to bunt or if he has the green light to swing away. First and third playing in. Reeder steps off the bag and looks Brookwell back. Noah Reeder doesn't have to really worry about Brookwell stealing third. You are not going to take that level of risk. His focus needs to be entirely on the man at the plate and Drew Metzdorf, who's going to play some mind games of his own and call for time and just continue to let Reeder think things through and more likely overthink things through on the mound. Kelly plays in. Metzdorf does not square to bunt, but it's way upstairs anyway. Metzdorf never looked like he was going to bunt, but that could be the play as well. To not do it the first pitch, get the ball out of the zone, and now you really have no idea if you're Johnson and Wales what the game plan is. Kelly took another step back, his toes just brushing the infield grass. Metzdorf does swing away at the 1-1 pitch. I won't lie, I am a little old-fashioned in my preferences for baseball, so I'm all about sac bunts and moving runners 90 feet. That's not the way Coach Eigenbrodt playing it, at least not with that pitch. Another step off from Reeder. There's really nothing that's going to happen over at second base. Yes, he's trying to keep him close, your number one priority cannot be Brookwell. Metzdorf had a nice pitch, and you see almost cursing under his breath as he got the changeup and just couldn't get contact that he wanted to with it. Now falls behind 1-2 strikes. Metzdorf cannot afford a strikeout here. It's not the end of the world because at the very least the runner did get over on the error. But you want him to get to third somehow. Curveball out and away. Well disciplined at the plate though. Drew Metzdorf watches that one outside for ball 2. Count even. 2 strikes. Nobody out. Beacons trying to come all the way back from a 6-0 deficit to win it 7-6. 3-2. Craig Corliss, arguably your most potent power bat, waits in the on-deck circle. Kevin Carrera, if we get there, is in the hole. Full count pitch from Noah Reeder to Drew Metzdorf. Fouls it off, and that is a critical fouled off pitch by Metzdorf. This game all started with the Johnson & Wales starter, Aiden Vining, going 3 perfect innings and basically sending UMass Boston down without a fight. Things have changed since then. Now nothing is coming easy for the Wildcat Hurlers. Another 3-2 to Metzdorf. Another foul ball. And this just builds the pressure. All the pressure is on the pitcher here. Because of the runner on second base, because there's nobody out, because you have a really powerful bat waiting on deck. So even though that there is a base open at first and second and nobody out makes things very difficult. It does open the double play ball, so that's the one thing that Reeder has in his back pocket if he were to walk him. The 3-2. Ball 4. First and second. Nobody out. That runner doesn't mean too much for Reeder, with the runner on second base being the only one that really matters. But back-to-back walks to start off the 9th inning, you'll take that every day of the week. Craig Corliss has struck out looking twice, grounded out to short, and walked and scored. 0 for 3 day. The double play is open. That's the only thing that you can say is a silver lining to the back-to-back walk, is that if it grounds to the middle infield, you can turn 2, runner gets to third base, but suddenly you're 1 out away from getting out of the inning. So strikeout, ground ball, hard to the outside, or routine to the middle infielders. That's what Johnson & Wales is hoping for here. Corliss is hoping he can drive this. He has to get the runner from second to third. That one's foul. Couldn't stay back on it. You see him shaking his head, then nodding his head. Shaking because he's frustrated he couldn't stay back on it, but nodding because he knows he's on the pitch. The dichotomies of baseball. You talk to yourself as a batter in baseball more than any other sport, where it's just you up there and you're talking to yourself and you're trying to guess the pitches or at least predict them, choose your spots, choose your locations, the inner dialogue of a baseball batter. Maybe a hockey goaltender, that's probably the only thing that's different or somewhat similar, you could say, to the isolation out there. Bounced in there. 1-strike. Reeder definitely doesn't look comfortable, but this is his game to survive or to lose. Nobody out there warming for Johnson & Wales. Beacons trying for a thrilling 7-run comeback from 6 down. Brookwell heads back. Reeder steps off. I understand the concern with the winning run on second base, but I believe it is distracting Noah Reeder from making the most effective pitches he can. Another one low. Kevin Carrera, 0 for 3. but does have a walk and a run scored. Waits on deck. Probably selfishly hoping that it's his opportunity to get the walk-off hit. Can Corliss get it before him? He grounds routinely to short. Could be two. They go for one. They get the sure out at first base. And they're going to walk Kevin Carrera. If they don't, then I really have no clue what's going to go on from here. You have to put him on first base to open up the double play ball, don't you? So 6-3. Corliss grounds out. Yep, there's the intentional walk. So Kevin Carrera heads down to first. Metzdorf is at second, but the only player that matters is Steve Brookwell at third base. So Aiden Blake is the opportunity. He is the guy to potentially win this for UMass Boston as the shadows begin to creep over home plate. Reeder delivers. Blake fouls it off to our right. Strikeout, ground ball for a double play are Johnson and Wales' only hopes at this point. You do have the force out at home, but you get the feeling with the infielders at the corners playing in tight where they can go home. Middle infield is playing at double play depth to turn that to end the inning. Blake takes strike two. Give Reeder credit for getting ahead in the count in a bases loaded situation where all the pressure's on him with one man out to throw strikes. Now he has a decision to make. Can you bury this pitch? Yes, you can. Nice stop by Davis. Wasn't too complicated, but in a situation like that, you have to rely on your catcher to make the stop. An 0-2 pitch, you know it's either going to go way high, see if the batter has to chase because he feels like he needs to protect, or you dirt it. And that's what happened. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Beacons. Call time. Aiden Blake on the day is 2 for 4. 2 singles. Has scored both times. Now he tries to drive home the winning run. Also a ground out and a strikeout. The 1-2 from Reeder. Brookwell is at third. Fouled off. Remains 1-2. Gianni Zerilli Jr. would be in the on-deck circle. The Beacons hoped that it wouldn't get to him. Winning run leads off of third. That's Steve Brookwell, who led things with a walk. This one, grounded to second. Can they turn 2? That's 1. The second one, not in time. The Beacons win it. It is a walk-off ground out. But who cares how they get it? They get to mob Aiden Blake. He grounds it to the second baseman, but for once it's a good thing that he didn't quite hit it hard enough. They get the force at second. The return throw is a step late, and Aiden Blake gets a walk-off fielder's choice ground out, and the Beacons win it. They come back from 6 runs down. They score the last 7 runs of the ball game, and they win it in a thriller, 7-6. No home runs, but 2 critical doubles in the 8th. From Thomas Q and Jake Waltman tie the game. Eastman gets the win in the 9th after he got his first save of the season in his last appearance. He gets his first win of the season in this one. The loss goes to Noah Reeder. Those 2 leadoff walks critical. He ends up walking 3 batters as we take a look at the instant replay from the not too festive ground out, but it does the job. The shovel from second to short, but definitely not nearly in time. Johnson and Wales knew it. Brookwell scampers home from third, and the Beacons win it by a final score of 7-6. Well, midway through, you weren't quite sure if this was going to be another one of those days like MIT where the Beacon offense just couldn't come to life, but they did it. They got it from some familiar sources and some unfamiliar ones. Jake Waltman gets our player of the day with an outstanding line. Struck out his first time, but after that, single and a run scored, double and a run batted in, and another double, and a critical game-tying RBI, scoring Thomas Q from second to tie this ball game at 6. And then it ground out with the bases loaded and one man out in the bottom of the 9th. Couldn't beat him on the relay throw. Blake reaches on the fielder's choice, and the Beacons win it by a final score of 7-6. 7 runs, 8 hits, 2 errors for UMass Boston. They improve on the season to a very nice 7-2 heading into the final non-conference game before they start conference play against WestCon on Saturday. Johnson and Wales, a disappointing result, having been up 6-0. They get 6 runs on 9 hits, 2 errors, but they fall in the season to 1-9 heading into a home game against Suffolk on Thursday. That's all the time we have for this one. We take a look at the upcoming schedule. Salve Regina on the road Thursday at 3. And then we will be here for a doubleheader starting at noon against Western Connecticut on Saturday. After that, it's a Brandeis non-conference game next week in the midweek as the season continues to march on. Boy, it's great to have Beacon baseball back, and we have our first walk-off of 2022, a 7-6 winner over Johnson and Wales. That's all the time we have on this Tuesday afternoon. Thank our outstanding production staff and crew for this one. Allie Crawford and Gina Albano, our directors. Allie, our producer. Mary Jo Murphy on Instant Replay. Danny Colazzo, Elena Albano, Sarah St. Sorry, and Sage Sorry on cameras today. My name is Mason Stelf saying so long from Monin Park. Your final in a thriller, UMass